Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the hot desert of Arizona. We're getting ready for the running of the Arizona 175 here in the G-Force Vintage Cup Series, race number 8 on the season. And it's going to be a hot one here in Avondale, Arizona. It's hot, it's really dry, and the drivers are getting set to run for a very long race, 175 laps here tonight at the Phoenix International Raceway. I am Anthony McCurry. Alongside of me is Seth Cole. Seth, how are you feeling today? And off the heels of Nashville, can we expect in this race?
Well, at least these drivers here tonight have a little bit more space to work with in terms of track length. But one thing about tonight's Phoenix is the Legacy Phoenix, which means on the back straightaway, there's grass. There's not the paved dogleg that a lot of drivers are used to running at the updated Phoenix International, or as most people commonly call it now, ISM. So it's going to be a little bit congested in terms of the back straightaway racing here tonight. I think you're going to have to make sure that you're really careful of back there. There's a little bit of a rumble strip to be able to separate the racetrack from the grass. If you get those tires down that grass, though, you're more than likely going to spin around. So these drivers are going to have to settle things out early on, get themselves into a bit of a rhythm for a long green flag run, because as you mentioned, it's hot, it's slick, we're out here in the desert, and those tires are going to get worn.
And it's going to be a battle of man versus machine for these drivers, as it is with every week we go into. These cars are hard to handle. Then you throw the conditions of this racetrack. It's an older surface. It's before the repave. And like you said, you have the grass that you have to contend with, which is going to make these drivers a little bit more on edge, especially when they go through the dogleg. Because there's that little kink there that when you get onto it, that's where the road course section is. There is actually a little road course section where this track used to have one. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get around it, but I'm excited. I'm sure everyone at home is excited. Gerald Campbell's on the pole for tonight's race. He will get us underway for 175 laps here at Phoenix, and we are about ready to send them underway. Pace car makes the hard left turn to pit road on the front straightaway. They're going to lining up, and we're ready to go. They got it really bunched up. We're green flag here.
175 laps here this evening for these drivers, so they're definitely going to have to pace themselves as Campbell's going to pull ahead with the lead. Harrelson's going to slot into second. Another solid qualifying effort there for Seth Harrelson in that 07 machine. He's been on it in terms of qualifying laps in the last 3 or 4 weeks.
He has been indeed, and everyone behind. Whoa, back into the inside. John Weindorf not playing any games. He's getting right below the yellow line, trying to get around. That's McLaren up there in the 7 car in 5th place battle for the 7th position. But coming off of Nashville, these drivers had a lot of problems getting the power down easily and not spinning out of the turns. So far tonight, it has not been the case. We've seen these drivers really be able to get her out of turn 2 and turn 4 nice and easy. And these turns very different from one another, as turns 3 and 4 are much flatter than turns 1 and 2. So we're looking back here, a battle between Ryan Lutz and the pink and white machine. Just put Michael Blanton back to 8th place, making some moves on our last week's winner, Blaine Atkin.
Hey, talk about John Weitendorf starting to make a charge to the front. Gerald Campbell right now leading this race. These drivers did not run Phoenix back in season 1 rather of the G-Force Vintage Cup Series. They did, however, run this track 125 laps back in the Grand National Series.
And we were on board for it. I think he's still spinning. I think he saved it.
He did indeed. What a tremendous save there by Seth Harrelson. It'll drop him all the way back to the 8th position. I got to wonder what that's going to do to his rear tires. Not only is that going to put a lot of extra heat into them, which is going to really affect the handling of his car for the remainder of this run, but it's also going to wear them down a bit.
Yeah, that was intense. We were on board with Gerald Campbell looking back at Seth Harrelson as he was in the middle of a spin, but did make a fantastic save. And to your point, those tires are going to be screaming. I didn't mean to cut you off, but that was happening quite quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely glad you cut me off on that. Definitely something that we needed to know happened out there on the track, and also a moment of silence for the commitment cone that Seth Harrelson ran over as he gathered the car back up. But going back to what I was going to say, these drivers ran 125 laps back in the Grand National Series, and we are guaranteed a different winner here at Phoenix in G-Force overall, because last year in the Grand National Series, it was Bo Brady who went to victory lane, and Brady is not in the field here tonight.
And that is something that we talked about last week when we were at Nashville. No one had really won a race there in this series either, and it was only ran in the Grand National Series. So 2 back-to-back first-time winners that we're going to see in the Hijinx Clothing Vintage Series. So something that's going to be special for these drivers. And you know that last week they were aiming to try and be that first driver to win at the inaugural race in Nashville. You got to imagine that these drivers are also gunning to be the inaugural winner here today at Phoenix. And so far, there's been drivers trying to make moves to the front. We've documented Ryan Lutz trying to get to the front. But last week's winner, Blaine Atkin, also making moves to try to get to the front. He's gotten up to now Jackson McLaren, and now second place Anthony Graneri. Although Atkin gets a bit of the wall, it's going to lose a position to Weitendorf in the process, and maybe also Lutz unless he can get a run in to turn 3. He's going to wash up the track again and gets the wall.
So we're starting to see the drivers that are pushing it. Those would be those drivers that are going up into the wall, as you just talked about. And a big reason for that is there's not a whole lot of banking to lean on here at Phoenix, especially over in 3 and 4. It's a lot flatter, maybe a little bit, maybe a couple more degrees that these drivers can utilize over in 1 and 2. And it kind of gets into a driver's head of when can I get back to the throttle. More often than not, drivers get back just a tick too early, and the car carries too much speed off the corner with no banking for that right rear to be able to lean on. They then push up into the outside wall, and we know the fact that here today with low banking and the way that these 87 cars are, they start out loose, and as those rear tires and rear grip goes away, they're only going to get looser. You don't want to go up there, brush the outside wall, and maybe bend down the right side of that rear spoiler, because that's going to take away even more downforce on the exit of the corner.
Yeah, these cars don't have much to begin with, and that could be a bit of a night to end to these drivers if they can't control their car. Now, this track is not particularly easy to control around, especially because of how flat it is most of the track and how little aerodynamics these cars have. But that being said, they're putting on some fantastic battles right now. The battle for second place has been heated up since the onset of about lap 9 or so. It's Jackson McLaren now to the inside of Graneri, about ready to take the position away on the inside of the racetrack. And this is something that we've seen throughout most of this old surface, the legacy track of Phoenix, where before the repave, it was really hard to kind of float the car through these turns and really be able to make the entirety of a turn work for you. We're seeing a very old style of racing that we've kind of missed with the new layout of ISN. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's something about the old surface that makes the battles on this racetrack, especially in an older car like this, just a little bit more special. Whoa! Lutz back there got really loose, and he's actually getting into the wall with, I believe that's the 3 of Morse that went up with him.
I'm going to go back quickly, see here. You are correct. It was indeed the 3 of Christopher Morse, and that was a case there of Ryan Lutz just carried too much speed into the corner. He was on the brakes, the right front smoking, and the brakes just never took. That's something else we got to talk about here as well, is that these drivers are going to be utilizing a lot of brake on the entry to the corner, and if they use up too much of it, there may not be much brake left as we get longer into a run. I think that was the case right there. Just absolutely no grip in the front tires for Ryan Lutz. He couldn't get that thing woe down.
Yeah, this track is going to play that kind of a factor in all night. It's really hard on these cars, and locking the brakes is not something that we've really had to deal with up until this point. We're 8 races into the season, so it's kind of interesting to see that when we get into this later part of the first half of the season, where now we're starting to worry about brakes and being able to stop. Right now, this battle between Morse Blanton and Harrelson is really heating up, and there's some contact, it looks like, between the two, the 24 and the 07. Almost contact and almost went up into the wall going through turns 3 and 4, but so far we're okay. And now Harrelson gets in front of the 24 of Blanton. That was some good hard battling. Right now, here comes Ryan Lutz into the mix as well. He's also bringing Hank Steinmiller into the mix to try and get what is going to be a 6th place position if you go all the way up to Christopher Morse Jr. So a pile of 5 cars, and Lutz now to the inside of the 24, who seems to be going backwards more than he is going forwards.
I want to go back to the point you were talking about of the style of racing that we've missed seeing ever since the old configuration, the old surface of Phoenix has gone away, and that's what we're seeing right now with the fact that if a driver gets to your inside, it's the shorter way around the racetrack, and almost invariably the car on the inside is going to make the pass. but it's not the case where if there's 2-3 drivers lined up behind him, that you're a sitting duck on that outside line and you're going to lose those 2 or 3 spots. I've seen several occasions here where a driver's been trapped in the outside line. They'll lose that 1 spot, be able to hold off the other drivers behind, and slot in line. So definitely, it's a lot of multi-groove racing that's allowed here. Some grip is up in that second lane. That's something we might have to keep in our memory bank for late in this race. If the driver out in front coming to the white flag keeps it right down that yellow line, there are options for that second or third place driver to go a little bit higher, try and maybe get a run for the win.
And we did see that Michael Blanton was able to really make that outside line work when he was battling with Lutz, although now he is in a battle with Hank Steinmiller, not been able to really keep that outside line to work for him, although we don't really know what the condition of his tires are at the moment, because I think he had a slide earlier in the race. But to your point, the outside line can work, and if you can get it to work on a late run, then you can get the run out of turn 4. We've seen races come down to stuff like that. Plenty of races in the Cup Series, to be precise, but other series like the trucks will have them as well. As right now we're kind of getting to a lull period with the tires are kind of starting to get worn, and we're seeing some really good side-by-side battles. To your point, we're looking with Blanton right now. He did get the edge over Steinmiller at the line, so it is very possible that what you said can happen. And I think if anybody can catch the leader, it will happen. But Gerald Campbell, he is checked out. He's got himself about a 2-second lead right now over Blaine Atkin, who's gotten up to second place. So if anyone is enjoying some free track right now, it is definitely the driver of the 31.
Yeah, I think Gerald Campbell might need his mail forwarded. He's moved to a different zip code right now. 2 seconds, you said, over Blaine Atkin. The battle is on for third, and a driver that has seemed to use up his stuff early has been Jackson McLaren. Atkin got around him for second place a couple of laps ago. Now John Whitendorf putting the pressure on the 7, and I've seen a couple of times there where McLaren's almost gone up and gotten the outside wall out of turn 2. Now, I was looking back here, as we mentioned, the Grand National Series ran here at Phoenix. The Vintage 87 Cup Series never had, but I know it's 2 different types of cars, but it is the same track, and I wondered if maybe drivers that did well in the Grand National Series race here would be doing well here tonight in the Cup Series race. You got your race leader, Gerald Campbell, leading the way here. He finished 6th here in the Grand National race, and John Whitendorf, who's now moved up into the 3rd position, he was the highest finisher of the drivers that took the green flag here tonight back in that Grand National race in 4th place. So it looks like, at least in terms of the capability of getting around this track just over a mile in length, it carries over for the driver no matter what type of car they're driving.
They certainly do have an advantage when it comes to how to drive the track, and all you do really is just adapt to the driving style that the cars that you're driving have to have in order to get around the track. It's something that happens a lot of people that do different series with different disciplines. It kind of, once you learn the track, all you do is, like I said, just adjust to the way the car wants to drive it. That being said, some of these drivers are having better luck than others. We were looking at them and actually on board with them when Seth Harrelson went up into the outside wall and tagged the outside wall coming out of turn 2. He's gotten back going the right direction, although he's lost the position to Ryan Lutz as a result of it. He is right behind him, though, so within striking distance, although there is damage on the back end of that 07. Going a little bit up the way, you see a battle right now between the 3rd place, John Whitendorf, and a battle between what is going to be 4th place, Christopher Morse Jr. and Anthony Guarneri. If Christopher Morse can hold it on the inside line and get around the 16, the Guarneri has fallen like a rock. He was up in 2nd place at one point, and I think he might have overcooked his tires, and now is falling back to now a 5th place position, going the wrong direction, although the 3 is going the right direction.
I'm looking back here mid-pack, and a couple of drivers that I would have expected to see up here towards the front. Hank Steinmiller in the 63, mired right now in the 9th position, and Jake Hounshell right behind him there in 10th. If we look at the points after the fallout of Nashville last week, Blaine Atkin comes in this race the points leader, 22 points over John Whitendorf. Gerald Campbell, 26 points back, as he was your pole sitter and race leader at this current point in time. And Christopher Morse Jr., who's now fought his way up into the top 5 and 4th, he is 4th in the standings, 44 points back. Right now, those are the 4 really to kind of focus on as far as a points leader heading into that wild card race at Talladega next week. Jake Hounshell, though, he is 5th in the point standings, 105 points back. Still a lot of racing to go in this season, so certainly could cut down a triple-digit deficit like that, especially with them using the old point system. But I was kind of expecting to see a little bit more early on from this 0-2, and right now it just looks like it has not been the case. I don't know if Phoenix is not to his liking right now. I don't know if the car is not to his liking, or if he's just playing possum in tire conservation mode. Whatever the case is, just not quite the early strength that I expected to see out of this machine.
He started in 8th place, and he's actually lost 2 positions. He never got higher than 8th. He's currently in the 10th position. He's been as low as 12th at one point, so far he's kind of met a middle ground. But like you said, his lap times are not anywhere competitive with anyone in the top 5 outside of possibly Anthony Guarneri. And we see what's happening with Guarneri. He's going the wrong direction. He's got a lot of cars in front of him, and they're all kind of wadded up right here. If you look about, well, now 16 is losing a ton of positions, but if you look back here, about 3rd place on back, you could put a blanket over all these drivers. And if you're Jake Hounshell or anyone behind these guys, you're thinking, what do I do to get around them and behind? That was Seth Harrelson. No, that was the 7 of Jackson McLaren that almost went for a ride straight to the outside wall as he got a little bit of help and almost lost the car through turn 3.
Got a bump from behind by Seth Harrelson, but was able to gather it back up. Nice save by Jackson McLaren, and Seth Harrelson kind of looking at that saying, hey, I've been there before. I was slideways through 3 and 4 as well early on in this one. But a thing that I'm looking here as well, Anthony, lap times. Best lap for our race leader, Gerald Campbell, was just a tick under 30 seconds. It was
a 29 around.
And caution will fly.
And that's big. He was running in, his 3rd place at the time, or 2nd place. No, yeah, 3rd place at the time. And there's a couple other drivers involved too. The 24 of Blaine was involved. That happened right in front of everybody.
I also saw the 14 of Cooper Johnson spin down to the inside. I think he avoided. I think it was just a spin through the grass as he got hard on the brakes. But now that is a tough break there for John Whitendorf, because remember, not only was he running up there towards the front, there's no faster pairs for these drivers. So depending on the extent of the damage sustained, he's going to have to deal with that for the remainder of the race, and we've just gotten started.
Yeah, and we're going to take a look and see what happened here. It was going into turn 3. I think that Morse might have helped him. I
think he got sent.
He got a really big hit. There was a lot of cars that went around the 14. The 02 we were talking about, Houndshell, he got nailed going through turn 3 and 4.
And you saw Cooper Johnson got on the brakes, snapped to the inside. Chuck Sweeting also got on the brakes. And it's almost like the front tires take, but the rear tires want to keep going, because Chuck Sweeting slid into that incident as well.
We're taking a look here. We're trying to get an onboard of the 02, because he, like I said, he went in pounding in there. And yeah, I think that what most of this was just trying to avoid it and ended up actually losing the car yourself. There you see the 33 spin in front. And then, yeah, he just gets contact right there. Look at how hard that was. Ended up going complete 360 twice. Looked like he did a bit of a 720, I believe that it would equal out to, if my math is correct, and keeps going. But, man, that was hard hits for all these drivers. And not only that, but that was up at the front. That could have been much larger of a crash if it had happened anywhere outside of a braking zone.
No doubt. Chuck Sweeting has taken his car back to the garage, so unfortunate for him. Didn't even make it to the lap 30 marker. He'll finish 19th place here tonight. And another thing that I also noticed here, Cooper Johnson decided to stay out, as did a couple of other drivers as well. James Roth also decided to stay out in the 4 machine. This is 30-lap-old tires that these guys are staying out on. I was going to go back, but just before that incident took place, I was going to go back and talk about lap times as opposed from fresh tires to old tires. Gerald Campbell was running 2 to 3 seconds slower on the tires he had at the end of that stint to the tires he had at the beginning of this race. That is a huge fall off. So I'm very, not confused, but very curious about this strategy call for the 14 car and the 4 of James Roth, of why they would stay out on this old of tires. I know they probably want to save an extra set for late in the race, but remember I talked about the inability to be a sitting duck when you're kicked to the outside line? They're sitting ducks now.
Indeed they are, and we're about ready to go back to green flag racing, and we are green yet again on lap 30 of 175, and that was a good jump by the 14. Certainly didn't look like he had old tires, and throughout the first turn doesn't look like it, but now you can really see it on the outside. Look at the run that the 44 of Atkin got. He's to the inside through the dog leg. He's going to take the lead and clear the 14 going into turn 3. And someone else who hasn't had a good run is the third, but we've got another yellow.
James Goshen. No, I'm sorry. That was actually Jackson McLaren that's brought out this yellow over in turn 3.
And Jason Houndshell, the other Houndshell, having problems this time around as well in the 00.
These two might have made some contact down the back straightaway. I talked about the lack of space, especially through the center of the back straightaway, and that's what led to this contact here between the 7 and the 00. I think neither one of them hit anything. Man, I'll tell you what, that 7 slid within a hair's breadth of that inside wall, but I don't think he ever hit it.
Nah, he almost did. You can see him just sliding across there, and yet, to your point, I don't think he ever made contact. That was just a product of not really knowing where your competitor was on the racetrack, like you said. And coming out of the dog leg, it certainly looked like he had him cleared, but did not have it at all. And I don't want to point fingers, but it kind of looked like the 00 moved down a little bit on the exit of the dog leg. I'm not really sure if he did or not, but I don't think there was anything that Jackson McLaren could do to avoid that, because that seemed like it was right there before he could make a move.
It's a very difficult corner. Most people might not realize that whether it's the Legacy Phoenix or it is the updated Phoenix, where you can go all the way down to that inside wall, up there above that yellow line is very difficult turn to maneuver. For the 00, just to kind of describe what he deals with when he goes through that corner on the outside line, the car doesn't really want to turn. You carry a lot of speed off of turn 2 onto that area, and it's almost like you have to make a corner, but you're carrying about maybe 40 to 50 miles per hour more than you really should in making that left-hand turn. So you have to actually turn the car down low through the center of the back straightaway to make sure when it rides up that you don't hit that outside wall. And case in point with what we saw earlier with John Whitendorf, if you go up and brush that wall, it's going to hug you. So Jason Houndshell did exactly what he needed to do to make sure he was going to make that little bit of a dogleg on the back straightaway. Unfortunately for him, Jackson McLaren wanted the same piece of real estate. So, while it might partially be the blame of the 00, he did what he had to do to make sure he made that corner.
Yeah, I don't think you can fault him. There was no way that he was going to be able to really make that work. So, to your point, it is thin. People don't understand that. Also, there's that curb there. And that is something that is not in the new updated version of this racetrack with the repave, is that when you hit that curb, it's almost like getting sent sailing into the outside wall, whether you really want to or not. So to your point, making the corner was more important there. And the most important thing is that both of them ended up getting out of that unscathed, which is something that I don't think that could have been said if they had hit each other on any part of the racetrack. So it worked out. It worked out in the end.
That curb back there, that rumble strip, if you will, it's not there for grip. It's there as a boundary line for drivers to be able to see where the pavement ends and the grass begins. It's not going to give a driver any type of advantage in terms of grip on that back straightaway. But we call him the king of restarts. He showed us why there when the green flag dropped. Blaine Atkin jumping from second up to the race lead. And I noticed that Cooper Johnson, he utilized the opportunity there for that restart, did a little bit of homework and realized, yep, fresh rubber trumps everything, every type of strategy. He was down pit road along with James Roth under this caution. So all drivers now should be on a level playing field in terms of tire rubber for our second restart of the night.
And he is starting back in 13th, so he's got a lot of work to do to get back to where he was. The top 3 going to this restart are going to be Atkin. Graneri finds himself back in second place, and Gerald Campbell has fallen back to third place. Although he's got a fast car, I wouldn't doubt that we could see him trying to battle for the lead at some point in the few laps. And here we go, back to green flag racing, and as per usual, that 44 ducks to the inside, gets one heck of a restart, has opened up about 3 car length gap back to the 16 going through turn 1.
This is going to be interesting now to find out how Anthony Guarneri and Gerald Campbell stack up to the 44. Remember, Blaine Atkin didn't get the best of qualifying efforts here tonight. Started back from the inside of row 5. Guarneri and Campbell started on the front row. Campbell led the first portion of our run here just before that first yellow flag. So Be interesting to see if these two, based off of the speed they showed early, if they are on a level playing field with Blaine Atkin, or if Atkin was faster, just mired back in traffic.
Well, we know that Campbell might be fast because he just put the 16 down to third place, so he's not wanting to wait any longer than he needs to. He's already trying to get back up to the 44. He's actually using the rumble strip to his advantage. He got right up on it that time. So trying to go through turns 3 and 4. He is looking pretty quick. I wouldn't doubt that he could catch him. Now, Granary, on the other hand, is falling back the wrong direction. Someone that is fast and is making his way towards these guys is the 63 of Hank Steinmiller. And when the season started, Steinmiller was one of those drivers that was always consistently in the top 5. I don't think we ever saw this gray 63 outside of the top 5, little on the top 10. But as the season progressed, he had some really rough luck the last few races and kind of didn't finish as well as we all expected he might have. But he has kind of gotten back into a rhythm and now finds him in the 4th place position, trudging towards the 16. So you think that maybe he's found some spunk back in that 63 team?
And I think he also may have been one of those drivers playing possum back during that first green flag run. Mentioned that he was back at the latter half of the top 10 and might have very well been in tire conservation mode, trying to figure out what his car was going to feel like on a long run. And Hank Steinmiller's not out of the championship picture by any means either. 6th in the points, 113 points back. Easily could gain those positions with how many races we've got left here in the regular season. So keep an eye on him. Hank Steinmiller had a really good run, if I recall, at Talladega last year in Season 1, and that's where we're going to be going next week.
Yeah, and it's not a given for these drivers whether or not they win that race. It's not like the modern cars. These cars don't have restrictor plates, so you basically run it like a speedway with a lot of draft effect that you have to take into consideration, and well over 200 miles an hour that these drivers are going to be getting at the high banks of Talladega and a much wider track than Daytona, so they might be able to stretch out a little bit more and really show what these drivers can do when you put them on such a wide track and give them all the power in the world and all the speed in the world, because these cars can get extremely fast. Back here, battle for what is 7th place. Ever since the restart, the 3 has just fallen off. He is now losing positions to Jason Hounshell, Jackson McLaren, and Cooper Johnson, who's trying to make a recovery drive after he came down pit road late.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure this one out, too. I don't know if this is another tire conservation strategy for Christopher Morris, because you're right. Not only did he lose touch with the top 3 when he restarted up in the 4th position, he actually fell back to this second group, and they are passing him. He's yielding the outside line to them, so it's either one or two things. Either, number one, he is in tire conservation mode, or 2, the damage that he might have gotten from getting into the left rear quarter panel of John Whitendorf that brought out our first caution, that damage, while it's not visible there, it might be affecting that race car just the least little bit.
It might be, and you know, we can't see it, and to your point, it might be something internal, and that could cause an entire car to effectively fail. And even though that it's not affecting the outside of the car, something gets knocked loose, like the anything to do with the steering, you will have some trouble with this race. Just given the fact that this track is very technical on both ends of the racetrack, it's very different turns that you have to go through. So if it's anything to do with the steering, anything to do with the back end, the rear axle of the car, you're going to have some problems. And right now, going the wrong direction. He's dropping like a rock, and I don't think this is strategy. There has to be something wrong with the 3 car, the way it's falling off.
I have a suspicion. I'm going to go back and confirm it, but as we look at the interval there, battle for the lead is closing up. 0.3 of a second now between Blaine Atkin and Gerald Campbell, and Campbell's been about a tenth and a half quicker the last couple of laps.
He has, and Campbell is right there, too. He's within striking distance. He could sail it into one of these turns, although I think it might be a little too early in the race to do that. Still got about 131 laps to go. So I don't think it's, at this point in the race, is not time to make some desperate moves, although he knows that he's got a faster car, and this is valuable information for later in the race where you might think about making a dive bomb or getting alongside and using the right side of your car to be a bit of a battering ram, a forceful handshake, if you will, to get out of the to get the lead of the race. So Campbell, I think he's in size up mode, because we saw that Blaine Atkin, he fell off quite a bit at the end of that run, and I think the way that he's driving, he's certainly using up his stuff, because we've seen him on the ragged edge of the last couple laps. He almost got the wall coming out turn 4 the last time by, so he is right there on the edge, and I think Campbell knows it.
All right, I went back, confirmed my suspicions. 17 laps ago, Christopher Morse Jr. was on pit road, took on no tires. So that is why he free fell through the field.
And that is interesting. He might be saving those tires for later, you think?
Absolutely. That's exactly what he's thinking. I mean, we've seen how fresh tires are invaluable on these restarts. I mean, right now, Blaine Atkin running about half a second, actually, slower than the fastest lap that he's run all day. And so we're definitely seeing tire fall off there. I mean, depending on how many drivers we would have on the lead lap in the closing stage of this race, if Christopher Morse Jr. has that extra set, comes down, takes it, let's say he restarts in 7th, with about 3 laps to go, no doubt in my mind, he could easily work his way from 7th place up to the front of the field and win the race.
Well, absolutely. We already have somebody to gauge that kind of a runoff of, and that's Cooper Johnson. He restarted back in the 12th position, and he's already made himself up into 8th place, right on the back end of McLaren and Lutz, who are in a battle right now for 6th place, or more or less just kind of running around in tandem with each other. So as we get later on in the race, we're going to really see what these drivers have up their sleeves, and if this strategy pays off for Morse, it could pay extreme dividends.
Certainly could, no doubt about it. I mean, Christopher Morse trying to run down Blaine Atkin for the points lead. The two of them have been in a very spirited battle the last couple of weeks, kind of swapping the points lead back and forth. Of course, Morse did not have the run he was looking for at Nashville last week, and that dropped him way down to 4th in points, 44 points out. But it's been very interesting to watch the exchange for the points lead back and forth with Campbell, Atkin, as well as Christopher Morse Jr., and I think these guys are realizing, hey, I'm not able to run away with this thing. The points lead keeps fluctuating, so I might have to do something a little bit outside the box in terms of strategy to kind of keep the rest of my competitors on their heels.
Yeah, and that is a good cat and mouse game to play throughout the season. We're deep into the first half of the season. We're coming up to halfway very soon. So these drivers are going to have to start thinking about the second half of the season and what they want to do in order to get the lead of the points or even maintain where they're at. Right now, somebody who is in a bit of a free fall is actually 2nd place, Gerald Campbell. He's hit the wall a couple times. We saw it a couple laps ago, or just the end of this last lap, where he pounded the outside wall coming out of 4. And he's lost quite a bit of ground back to Atkin. They were right nose to tail with each other. All of a sudden, Atkin turned on the jets, and he's opened up a 2.5 second lead, about 2.2 second lead, make that over the 31. And he is having a hard time, that being Campbell, controlling his car. And I wonder if his car might be a little bit, I wouldn't say differently set up, because I think this is a fixed series. But he certainly seems like those hits on the wall have not done him any favors.
Absolutely not. It's actually dropping him back into the clutches of Steinmiller and Anthony Guarneri, who are pretty close in a battle for 3rd place. I've been watching Ryan Lutz in the 6 machine. Now, he was last on pit road back on, I think it was lap 33, and he took on a set of tires. He's been able to work his way up to the 6th position, 6-lap fresher tires than the top 5 up ahead of him. But looking in terms of lap times, he has had to work his way through so much traffic, it's kind of now evened out in his lap times to the other drivers ahead of him. So that's something else we're going to have to keep an eye on. Like I said, depending on the number of drivers we have on the lead lap in the closing stage of this race, really could be the deciding factor into whether somebody, if they do have a set of tires available to them, if they want to give up the track position they have to come down pit road, because there's no guarantee they're going to be able to get that track position back.
No, but we have seen drivers that have fresher tires on the inside line. They've been able to really put down drivers on the outside line, especially at the old surface. It really doesn't seem like that outside line in some scenarios is the better line. Campbell, like I said, is trying to hold on to that position he's in the 2nd place. He's trying to hold it on from Steinmiller and Guarneri. He's trying to make that inside line a bit of a moving barricade, if you will. But someone with fresh tires advancing on someone with old tires, I mean, we saw how the 3 of Christopher Morse, how his old tires sent him backwards. He's now running last place on the racetrack. Chuck Sweeting retired after that first caution, but effectively right now, Christopher Morse Jr. is the last place driver on the racetrack, and he is going to be put down a lap. He's very soon if we stay under green. So I don't know if that strategy may have paid out for the 33 because the 44 is coming, but we saw how drivers with fresh tires on the inside line. Now, granted, Morris wasn't really putting up that much of a fight, but we saw how quickly he was able to be passed. If you do give up track position, it might pay off for you. You don't. It's hard to gauge just how it would happen, but I have a feeling that if you could stick your car to the inside line, you could take away that preferred line and really be able to arc the car out of the turns. I think that that would be the best scenario for some of these drivers. As right now we're seeing some battles on the racetrack between Cooper Johnson and Jackson McLaren. That's one of them. That would be battle for 7th place. So I don't know, Seth. Any other thoughts? I think that it would work that way if they could really pull that off, if track position was really that key.
Well, I think they can. Right now, Christopher Morris is running his own race. I'll give you a bit of an update on him in just a moment, but I did notice as well that a battle that's very important. John Whitendorf just passed James Goshen. That would be for first car 1 lap down, the lucky dog position if we get a caution, but Christopher Morris Jr. does not want to see that caution because he actually came down pit road 5 laps ago to take on his first set of tires, and he's running his own race right now. I'm not certain what the strategy is, but obviously every single driver has a goal coming into this race for different scenarios. He's thinking long green flag run, maybe potentially to the end, but he does not need a caution to come out while he's 1 lap down. That is for absolute certain. He's running about a lap and a half behind the race leader right now. He's over on the back straightaway. Morris Jr. just hit the start-finish line. A lot of times we'll end up seeing at the mile and a half tracks where a driver will come down pit road, take on tires, they lose a lap, but under green flag conditions, they can actually race their way back up to the leader and get that lap back. I'm not certain that's the case for Christopher Morris Jr. right now, based on the fact that he would have to make up an entire half a racetrack, get through traffic at the same time to get up to the bumper of the 44. I'm thinking more than likely Chris Morris Jr. is going to have to get himself back in the lead lap with everybody else coming down pit road for their first green flag pit stop of the day.
What? We got a spinner on the front straightaway and Morse was involved! And
that's Jake Houndshell in the 0-2.
And that's going to send Christopher Morse back to pit road. That's
what
intense.
In the world happened here?
That just happened in front of us. We were looking at Christopher Morrison. We were talking about him. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the 0-2 was spinning.
Well, Houndshell found out that the outside wall is kind of grabs you. Ran just a tick too wide. Hit that outside wall. It spun him around. And to your point, wrong place, wrong time for Christopher Morris Jr. And it's taken the 3 out of this race. With how close the points have been between the top 4, you can afford one bad race. You cannot afford back-to-back poor performances. And wow, this is a huge hit for the defending champion.
This is got points implications for sure. And that is going to be bad news bears for everybody involved. And like you said, he just got a little bit up on the outside of the racetrack and not really anywhere to go was the 3 machine. As you see in front of him, there's the 0-2 of Houndshell pounding the wall and then out to the inside and then nowhere for the since spinning around and blown engine. That is day done undoubtedly for the 3 car. And like you said, this is championship implications. You like you said, you can afford one bad race. This has been a couple for the 3 now, and I wouldn't doubt that we're going to see the 44 possibly taking the points lead even further. But off the battle off of pit road was actually Hank Steinmiller getting the battle 1 off of pit road with Ryan Lutz in second.
We have to double check on this, but I think it might have been right sides only for both of these drivers. Actually, it might have been fuel only for the 63, and indeed it was. They never jacked that car up, and like Ryan Lutz might have also, yeah, fuel only for the 63 and the 36, and that's with 26-lap-old tires underneath their machines.
It's about the same as the last run, give or take a couple laps. And we saw what happened to the 3. I don't know if this is particularly the best strategy to do right now, although both of them might have a little ace up their sleeve that we don't know about. But that is interesting. They did not take any tires. That kind of baffles me a little bit.
It does me too, because, there's no saying we're not going to go into the same scenario we just did on that last green flag run where
Kind of.
Lutz and Steinmiller are going to be forced down pit road and possibly lose a lap as a result.
It could be, and I think they know that. I want to think that they know that, but we'll have to keep an eye on them and see what happens. We're under pacing for the third time tonight. We are on lap 63 of 175, and we are in the desert of Arizona. Not quite in Phoenix, but we are in the Phoenix area, and we are just a little bit getting towards halfway through this race. And so far, it's been a pretty clean race, I gotta say. These drivers doing a fantastic job of keeping the race clean, but we are going to put them underway next time by, so we're going to line them up and go back to green on lap 65 of 175. Hank Steinmiller, Ryan Lutz, and Blaine Atkin are your top three at the moment. My name is Anthony McCurry, and Seth Cole is with me. Seth, what are some of the predictions going forward that you are looking at through the field?
Phoenix is going to play its part into our championship battle. That is the one thing I have drawn from this. 3 cautions so far, and in those 3 cautions, 3 of our top 5 in the points have been involved. John Whitendorf in the first caution of the day, and this most latest involving 5th in the standings, Jake Hounshell, and 4th in points, Christopher Morse Jr., the defending champion. So if I'm Blaine Atkin, I'm Gerald Campbell right now, I am taking note of the fact that this track in the desert of Avondale, Arizona is taking no prisoners, and I have to be very wary of my surroundings for these final 100 laps or so.
No, Ryan Lutz did not get a good start. He's actually going to get a bump from the 44 going into turn 1, and that could have ended in disaster, but still, Lutz on the inside. Oh, there's contact, and Lutz is going to go around. He saved it. Wow, what a save.
That was a heck of a save for sure by Ryan Lutz. Almost collected up Anthony Guarneri in the process. We keep it green for the time being, but that is all about old tires versus fresh tires, and I got a feeling we're going to see a couple more of those restarts before the evening's done.
Absolutely. Look who's in 4th place now. Cooper Johnson found his way back up into the top 5, and he's going the right direction, going underneath the 63 of Hank Steinmiller, trying to get back up to the 16 of Anthony Guarneri, who's found himself some new life. He's going forward in the right direction and trying to catch the 44 Blaine Atkin. I don't know how fast he is as compared to Atkin, but he's certainly showing some speed in that 16, and so it too is Johnson in the 14 as he's gotten around Harrelson on the inside line.
It only took 2 green flag laps for Hank Steinmiller and Ryan Lutz to fall from 1st and 2nd, now back to 6th and 7th. I mean, their lap times right now are mid-31s. The rest of the field are running mid-30s. Blaine Atkin just ran a 29.9, so they are way off the pace in terms of speed, and now we have to just wait and see if they're going to fall back into the same predicament we saw happen to Christopher Morse Jr. By the way, Jake Hounshell, 5th in points. He has made an early departure from the race. He will finish in 17th. So that's 2 drivers inside the top 5 in points coming into tonight's race that will not reach the conclusion.
We were talking about how Talladega was going to be a wild card race, but it seems more and more it's going to be Phoenix. I don't think we couldn't have predicted that coming into this race. I don't think that was either of the two of us saw that happening, especially when it just seems so nonchalant. We were talking about him, we had the camera on him, and then literally in front of him, it happened on the front straightaway, and the fans in the stands certainly got a good view of it. But man, what you couldn't have written that if you had tried to. This isn't a Netflix special, but man, it's written almost better than Drive to Survive.
I don't know, do we put a 1 under your name on the commentator's curse blackboard for that one?
I guess so. It might have been me that said it, but I need to learn to stop talking about drivers when they're doing well, or even when they're on and off.
Then they're done that.
Yeah, don't want to have that kind of bad mojo going throughout the season. So I'm just gonna stop making predictions. But I'm gonna nonchalantly make a prediction about the 14. He's doing okay. He should.
All right, I'll take the risk and embellish on him. I've been impressed with Cooper Johnson, not only here tonight, but also the last couple of races that we've been at. We've been at some really tough tracks: Nashville, North Wilkesboro, even Darlington. We've kind of seen him run mid-pack early on in the race, and I think he uses the first half of the race as a learning period. Then it seems like all of a sudden something clicks. He immediately adapts and then starts moving to the front. A lot of people will say that his win back at the start of the season at Daytona was a fluke. Right place, right time. Of course, that is the case, but that's what happens at a super speedway. It's all about positioning yourself. The fact that he has followed it up with great performances week after week, no matter what type of track configuration we are at, really has impressed me here with Cooper Johnson in his first full-time season, of course, running for Rookie of the Year honors as well. And, after so many races so far this season, he still finds himself 8th position in the point standings. This guy has done a tremendous job, and I'm certainly looking at him to still be able to pick up another victory before the season's out.
Absolutely. He shows pace week in and week out. That's no question, to your point. And it's only a matter of time before we see him crack another win so far this season. He is running in the top 5 tonight, and like you said, we've seen him consistently run within this group of cars, so he is showing some speed, and I look forward to seeing what he can do the rest of the season. Someone else that's doing pretty well for himself despite the bad luck that he's had today as a result of some instances, but Ryan Lutz, even though that he's on an off strategy right now, falling backwards, he's already got a win under his belt, a couple wins under his belt, in fact, and he came into the season late. He didn't take the start at Daytona, so coming into the season late, he's already had one race that he's had to make up as far as points goes. He's not doing too bad in the points either, so I would expect to see some good things out of Ryan Lutz going forward in the season. Dare I say, possibly even a championship contender if he can make up those points that he lost not making the start at Daytona.
Well, you certainly can dare to say. I mean, he ended up winning back-to-back races at Richmond and Atlanta. He's led 275 laps as Ryan Lutz, and subsequently he's 12th in the point standings. Now, yes, he is 201 points out, but let's bear in mind, again, as I said, they use the old point system, and we've seen drivers up inside the top 5 have issues here tonight, 2 of them back in the garage area. While I don't wish any bad luck on Atkin, Whitendorf, or Campbell, there is every possibility coming down towards the home stretch that these drivers continue to consistently run into issues. So you've still got to keep an eye on guys like Hank Steinmiller, James Roth, Cooper Johnson, Anthony Guarneri that are down the latter half of the top 10. If they keep having consistent runs, there's no saying that when we get to the finale that these drivers are still mathematically going to be in the championship conversation.
Especially when we have a season that's going to take us to not one but multiple wild card races in very quick succession. Next week, obviously, we have Talladega, which is one of those tracks that's kind of synonymous with having some interesting things happen in the race that leads to championship implications. Super Speedway, we saw what the finish at Daytona brought, so who's to say we're not going to see something similar to that, especially when you have the start-finish line way further away than the one at Daytona. So going down to the line, we could see some beating and banging, but you have that track. Then after Charlotte, you've got Sonoma, which is going to be the first road course on the season. First road course, I believe, of 2. If
yes.
We
got
2.
Watkins Glen about 7-8 weeks from now.
Actually, I think it's Road America that they're going to, the penultimate race of the season, which is another race.
No, we got 3. We got 3 then, because Watkins Glen is right in between Sonoma and Road America.
All right, well, then then that means we got 3 road courses on the season, Sonoma being the first one. That's going to be a bit of a wild card race. We're going to see who the road course drivers of this series are going to be, especially with all the elevation changes and these cars being a bear to control, as we've seen at multiple tracks this season. Eldora follows that. A dirt
These
race.
cars are loose enough as it is. You're going to throw them on a dirt track.
I mean, it's a wild season that these guys are going to have to go through. Charlotte's going to be fairly easy for these guys, I feel, although I say that's the legacy Charlotte, so it's got a little bit of a worn surface. It's going to be kind of a bit of like an Atlanta, but not quite. So they're going to have to drive around that track just as well as they're going to have to drive around any track. But, I mean, Seth, the season, it just piles on, and especially because we got some repeat tracks we're going to that these drivers might not want to go back to.
One of them is Nashville. That played a huge factor into shaking up the points last week. We're going back there nearing the end of the season. So, yeah, I look down through this schedule, and every track you name off and every track that I look at, The big red letters that jump out to me: challenge, challenge, challenge. It's not an easy road to the championship for any of these drivers with the schedule that still remains.
And one of the tracks that I think one driver is dreading the most is going to be Rockingham, and that would be the driver of the 44, the leader of this race. Blaine Atkin did not have a particularly easy race. He did get a good finish. He got a win, in fact. I don't know if he wants to go back to Rockingham. He was struggling quite a bit, and you got to admit that win. He had to wrestle that car to get that win.
He had to wrestle the car to get the win, but when in 2 starts you've got 2 trips to victory lane at a certain track, that kind of alleviates your apprehension of going back.
That's true, especially because he might have a playbook in mind, if you will, to go into that race, and he might be able to really figure out his way around that track. Well, we are running 81, going to come down to 82 laps complete, or starting 82 laps of this race. And I just noticed something. I was going to say something, but will not. Gerald Campbell's on pit road. Do you think this is a strategy, or does he need tires?
Yes, to me, just based on the number of laps we've run, this is unscheduled. I'm going to double back and try and see if I can find out why he has come to pit road. He's got some right front damage. Not sure where he got that from, but this seems too early. If we go back to when Christopher Morris Jr. brought his car down pit road for his first set of tires, he went about 50 laps. So I don't think that this is a scheduled stop for the 31. I'll double check and see here, as he just did a 4-tire pit stop down the way. This could be strategy, but I don't know. This is definitely off sequence, that is for sure, for Gerald Campbell, and a little bit early than when I would have expected to see a driver hit pit lane.
And that's going to be pretty a tall mountain to climb for this driver, because he's now gone 2 laps down to the leader, following right behind Goshen and Pearson, Pearson's just been put another lap down, so he's now 2 laps down. So the one who would get the lucky dog if a caution were to come out would be the 85 of Goshen, who right now runs 14th on the racetrack, 1 lap down. Gerald Campbell is now actually past Bruce Pearson to get 15th over Bruce Pearson, so he would be he would still be 2 laps down if a caution were to come out. We got a slow cut. Whoa, right in front of us, the 24 and I believe that's who was that? The 42? The
42.
Yeah, the 42.
Yep, O'Carroll.
Wow, that was contact made, and they saved it, so we're still in the green.
I want to go back real quickly, give an update on Gerald Campbell. Checked back on the pit stop prior to the one we just saw him make, as, we're going to go 3 wide here with Goshen up on the top side. So this is the eye of the storm, if you will. But on the pit stop prior to the one he just made, he went with fuel only, did not take tires. He spent the extra time on pit lane actually getting some damage repaired. So in terms of the number of laps he would have turned on those tires, that was a regularly scheduled pit stop. Makes sense that he would pit when he did there for the 31.
Well, that clears that up. A good thing, though, that it isn't anything more sinister, because that is something you don't want to have, especially if you're going to go 2 laps down. You don't want to have a car that's not handling the way you want to. But he just got one of those laps back. Just went around Blaine Atkin, so now only -1 for Campbell, and now he's just got to try and reel in James Goshen, who's about 24 seconds ahead of him. That's doable. He can do that.
Hey, if James Goshen keeps getting forced up there to that 3rd lane, absolutely doable.
Yeah, he is in a hornet's nest right now, is the driver of the 85 machine, sandwiched between the 33 and the 00 right now. So between a Hound Shell and Whitendorf sandwich is the driver of our 85 car. And right now, Bo Caro is not all running very well ever since making that contact with the 24 of that would be his name slipped, Michael Blanton. There it is. I got it. So gotta give credit to the driver of Blanton and Carroll. They saved that when, by all means, those 2 were going up into the outside wall.
Yeah, absolutely. We've actually seen a number of tremendous saves here tonight. Seth Harrelson had one early on. Ryan Lutz had a great save. And so these drivers have done a great job of keeping their cars underneath them. We know what a handful these 87 cars are to drive. We know that there's slick conditions here on the West Coast in Arizona. And the fact that we have had some near spins but not complete spins has been a credit to the ability that these drivers have. And how about Seth Harrelson up here in the second position? He just was holding off Cooper Johnson on that last lap for that runner-up spot. Started up there towards the front. I believe he rolled off from the third position. He's got currently 2 top 10 finishes this season. Both those top 10s up inside of the top 5. And right now, very strong race car up inside the top 5 again, holding down the runner-up spot.
Yeah, he is, and he's got a challenge, like you said, for Cooper Johnson. He's got quite a bit of damage on the back end of that car as well. I don't know if you can see it or not, but that back end of his car is all crunkled in, and I don't know if that is due to maybe some contact on one of the restarts we've had, or if he's actually backed it into the outside wall at some point in time. But that is a bit of an issue for him. But although, like I said, a fast car, despite that, he might be able to reel in Blaine Atkin. I say that, though, the gap is 7.2 seconds. Atkin has opened up an almighty lead, and if Harleson's going to catch up, then he's got a bit of a Goliath to handle.
And lap after lap, Blaine Atkin continues to run about a 10th quicker than Seth Harrelson. So that 7.5 second gap continues to increase the longer we go on. And I think is playing into this that we've talked with Blaine Atkin about before, and he has told us, is his ability with tire conservation. Back in season 1, Blaine Atkin, as soon as the green flag would drop, he would go hard for a long time and really use up his stuff, which hurt him for the long run. He's kind of been able to now back up his aggression here in season 2, be a little bit more of a tire conserver, and we're seeing right now that he has been able to adapt to a long-run driver as he continues to lay down very decent lap times. Matter of fact, that last time by, he was one of 2 drivers that ran in the sub-32-second mark. The only other driver that did it was John Whitendorf, and he's mired back in 9th.
And he's taken a pretty interesting approach to running the track as well. He's kind of diamonding turns 3 and 4 at the moment. He's really sailing it in and then arcing down about the middle of the racetrack and then hitting the inside line. Running through turns 1 and 2, he's hugging it right on the inside line. Obviously, there's quite a bit more banking in turns 1 and 2 than there is in 3 and 4. So, I don't know. It's really interesting to watch him, the way he handles both of these tracks. And I just was on board with him, and he is struggling. He's turning that car to the right a lot on corner exit. So, definitely a bit of a fight with that 44 machine at the moment. But he is putting down some fast laps, as you said, a 8.5 second lead now back to second place Cooper Johnson after he took the position away from Seth Harrelson moving forward. So right now that is second and third settled, but Anthony Guarneri in a battle right now with Jackson McLaren, and those two have been all around this racetrack at least once. And right now McLaren trying to get to the inside of the 16. Not much work coming out of 4 though. He's going to have to fall back, but he's got a fast car.
You talk about Blaine Atkin fighting with his race car. Been watching Anthony Guarneri the last couple of laps around, and he is also fighting with his race car right there. Hands were going back and forth out of turn 2 as he's trying to make sure the back end doesn't step out. Looks like Guarneri's hand's a little bit steadier on the wheel, and so his car handling much better as he'll now look to the inside for 4th place.
And we are on board with the 16, and we just saw the pass happen live, and there he goes. The 7 has taken the position away from Anthony Guarneri, and is actually looks like he's faster than the 16, so might have done a better job conserving his tires. He's kind of running a middle line, as we've seen a lot of drivers run kind of an inside or a bit of an outside line, but that inside line or that middle line rather, working wonders for the 7 of McLaren. Although
Ryan Lutz to pit road, sorry to cut you off, but not taking tires on the last green flag pit stop, now coming down to take on a set is the 36.
That is probably the best thing that he could have done. He was going the wrong direction, although it's under green, so he's undoubtedly lose quite a few spots. In fact, he might go a lap down, at least 1 lap down already. Might go to 2nd lap down if he has an extended stay on pit road. In fact, 44 of Atkin is now coming off a turn 2 or make that turn 4. So I would imagine if he's not going to go 2 laps down, he's right on the cusp of it.
And just when he hit pit road, Gerald Campbell got around James Goshen. So now the 31, also passing Ryan Lutz, would be in the free pass position should we get a caution flag.
And that's good for him because he fell back quite a ways when the last round of stops happened, and we haven't really seen a round of stops with these leaders yet, and I don't think we will for quite a while. Probably can go at least to lap 45 or more on this run, but we are running lap 80, make that 98, about lap 99 now of 175 here at Phoenix, Arizona for the Arizona 175 here in the G-Force Hijinx Clothing Vintage 87 series. And we still have a long way to go. 76 laps when we hit the stripe next time. Bye for Blaine Atkin. We're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back. Don't miss anything. We're going to go FRN side by side.
Welcome, race fans. This is Paul Page, the voice of IndyCars. And today we're excited to present another IndyCar event brought to you by the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. From the Unzers to Mears, Foyt, and Andretti, now it's Corley, Peterson, Davies, Gardner, and T. You can expect high speed, incredible wheel-to-wheel action, and intense drama that you can only get in an IndyCar. So sit back and enjoy your favorite drivers from all over the world take the track. Dark Horse IndyCar drivers, start your engine.
ETE Reman is the world's best remanufacturer of transmissions for import and domestic cars and trucks. Based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our customers are repair shops, auto parts stores, dealerships, and distributors. And with 6 nationwide warehouses, we're where and when you need us. So when you're looking for a transmission that is like new, only better, instill confidence and install ETE Reman.
Welcome, race fans. This is Paul Page, the voice of IndyCar. And today we're excited to present another IndyCar event brought to you by the Dark Horse IndyCar Series. From the Unzers to Mears, Foyt, and Andretti, now it's Corley, Peterson, Davies, Gardner, and T. You can expect high speed, incredible wheel-to-wheel action, and intense drama that you can only get in an IndyCar. So sit back and enjoy your favorite drivers from all over the world take the track. Dark Horse IndyCar drivers, start your engine.
Welcome back to Arizona, and we've got a battle going on for second place right now between Harrelson and Cooper Johnson. I believe that Harrelson just put Johnson back to third place. This battle has been raging on for the last couple of laps, and you might have noticed that we had a couple drivers on pit road. In fact, we've got another driver on pit road, that being the 63 of Hank Steinmiller now on pit road, Anthony Guarneri on pit road a couple of laps before this. I'm Anthony McCurry alongside with Seth Cole. If you're just joining us, we are about 70 laps to go into this race, and it's been a wild one so far, and a lot of strategy's been going on between these drivers. And Seth, what do you think about that battle? Well, it was a battle, but I think Johnson's pitted.
He has indeed. Cooper Johnson come down to the attention of his crew. And yeah, I found that interesting that we had that really spirited battle for about 3 or 4 laps between Seth Harrelson and Cooper Johnson just on the cusp of when these drivers had to think about coming down pit road. So I think in the case of Cooper Johnson, getting every little last bit of track position he could before eventually hitting pit lane. Now we know that the 36 of Ryan Lutz is already pitted. Gerald Campbell is already pitted, and you just saw Hank Steinmiller come down pit road. These are drivers that did not take on any tires when these drivers were last on pit lane back around lap 63. I'm not certain about the 16 of Anthony Guarneri, if he was also on that same strategy with those drivers or not. I'm going to assume he was, because he came down the same vicinity as Hank Steinmiller did. Same for Cooper Johnson. I'm not certain about those 2 drivers in particular, the 14 or the 16, if they had actually already taken on a set of tires back about 44 laps ago, or if they had actually also gone with fuel only, as Seth Harrelson now comes down the pit lane.
Yeah, he's making the slow crawl all the way down to his pit box. This is a pretty long pit road given the length of the track, and has quite an interesting turn. It goes into turn 2, or 1 and 2 at this configuration, and he has gotten to his box. The pit road limiter here is extremely slow given the how fast the track is. I think, what is it, 40 miles an hour that these drivers have to go through, and it's a mile track, but still it's pretty slow.
I believe it's 45 miles per hour for these drivers. Jackson McLaren actually now on pit lane, and yeah, his telemetry tracking right at a steady 45 miles per hour. And
Whoa!
of course,
The leader, Atkin, almost slams to the outside wall going into pit lane. He was on his way in. I shouldn't say the outside wall. He almost hit the pit wall, and there's a yellow. And that's
Jackson McLaren. Oh no, you're right. It's Steinmiller.
And that is bad news. Well, actually, good news for Atkin, because I think he was on pit road when it happened.
He was on pit road when it happened. You are right. I don't know if he's going to come down, take a service, if he'll just drive through pit lane. He was on the back straightaway again, almost similar to what we saw earlier on with Jason Hounshell. It was Harrelson and Steinmiller who got together there.
And I think it was the 07 coming out of pit road, and yeah, it was just a matter of too little racetrack, and the 63 made contact. A racing deal, I think that was.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can't really credit or claim anyone was at fault for that one, because that happened pretty quickly. I don't think that Steinmiller really had time to react to the 07 coming off of pit road.
Now, for both those drivers, kind of good news and bad news. For Hank Steinmiller, he was already trapped a lap down, so this takes him out of being the lucky dog, which I believe is going to go to Gerald Campbell. Seth Harrelson was on the tail end of the lead lap when that caution came out, so that caution actually saved him, and I'm trying to figure out this strategy here, Anthony, because Blaine Atkin, to his credit, when the caution came out, he drove down pit lane, did not stop in his box, just drove right through pit road, and still inherited the race lead. But now pit road's open. A lot of drivers hit pit lane. The 44 did not. He still got to take service. I'm not certain why he didn't come down pit road when the pits were open that first time around.
And especially because he locked up going into the pit lane. He almost slammed to the outside wall. And again, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that almost was our race leader taken out by way of his own doing, and that could have been disastrous. He is going to come down pit lane this time around, but he is undoubtedly going to lose the lead to Cooper Johnson, who has already taken service. So it's again, like you said, I don't know what kind of strategy this is, but it's definitely not the way I feel. I don't think it's a good one. He was on pit lane when the yellow flag came out. Oh, he almost missed his pit stall as well. He's kind of in there at an awkward angle. I don't know if he got all the way in.
Like he did. They are servicing the car. But yeah, why would you, when you're even going to inherit the lead still, despite coming down pit road, why would you come down pit road on the second lap of caution, give up that track position, and put yourself back in a situation where, having the dominant car of the day, you could get caught up in somebody else's mess?
This is interesting points implications. Maybe he feels that he's so far ahead of, say, Morse and Houndshell, that in the points it wouldn't really make an effect, but if he goes out, he's going to be right on level playing ground with them, and then he's got the potential of somebody else overtaking him for the points lead. So I don't know, because he was on pit road when the yellow came out. That much is true. Certainly an interesting strategy. Maybe he knows something that we don't know, and he can certainly put his car wherever he needs to. He's going to be restarting ninth if everything tracks around to being where it's at, because I think Campbell's now back on the lead lap. So too is Whitendorf. Also, McLaren and Steinmiller are back on the lead lap, so he's going to be restarting ninth. I don't know. We'll have to check back in on this strategy.
Yeah, he might know something we don't know, but the one thing everybody knows is they're going to have to be on pit road at least one more time. They are not within their fuel window to be able to make it the conclusion of this race. There's no possible way that this was a fuel strategy call for Blaine Atkin, because he cannot in any way, shape, or form save the number of laps he would need to be able to make it to the conclusion. So, we'll have to wait and see. He's going to be restarting back in the 10th position. Most of the time when we've seen him have to make his way through traffic back up to the front, he started back no further than 4th place. So a lot more cars for him to have to pass this time around.
Yeah, and he's got a lot of cars that are either on the tail end of the lead lap or caught a lap down, because right now we're looking at our leader, which is now Cooper Johnson, and he's got the 63 and the 7 in front of him. Those two drivers are on the lead lap. However, they are on the cusp of being caught a lap down, as they got caught by this pace car when the caution happened. So they're going to restart right in front of the leaders. A few other drivers, such as the 31, which is tracking backwards, Gerald Campbell. He was tracking back to go backwards and start in 11th place when this caution is going to come back in. So he's going to be restarting back here with the likes of Blaine, Atkin, John Whitendorf, and Ryan Lutz. So I'll have to see what happens when we go back to Green Flag Racing, which should be very soon. Top 3 is Johnson, Graneri, who is seeming to stay in 2nd place despite slinking through the field, and Seth Harrelson is now running in 3rd place after that bit of a bashing he had battling Cooper Johnson for the 2nd place position when the caution came out. Green flag back in the air, and Graneri's not waiting around. He's trying to go for the lead now.
That was a very tough restart for the race leaders, because with the 7 of Jackson McLaren and the 63 of Hank Steinmiller staying out, not coming to pit road, the 7 was the control car of when they went back green. It wasn't leaders' advantage, and you see right there, Cooper Johnson, Anthony Graneri, and Seth Harrelson, now as a result, they're all wadded up for the race lead.
Yeah, the 3-way battle for the lead of the race, make it a 2-way battle for 2nd place. Look at Seth Harrelson on the outside of the racetrack. He's the first driver to really show the power of the outside line as he passed 16 with ease.
I think he went to the Blaine Atkin School of Restarts, because Blaine Atkin actually was utilizing that 2nd groove to make some passes as well. Harrelson now going to use that momentum to cross over to the inside of Cooper Johnson. By the way, Blaine Atkin, where is he at right now? Moving up into the top 5, just got around Jason Hounshell, bringing Ryan Lutz with him, so that 44 is blazing a trail.
Indeed, he is. Battle for the lead has gone away. It is now Seth Harrelson leading the race with a slightly damaged 07 machine. He's got the 2 cars that are not on the lead lap at the tail end of the lead lap in front of him, that being Steinmiller and McLaren, that he's still getting some draft off of. So going forward is he. They're 3 wide back there for 3rd place. Almost. That's between Graneri, Atkin, and Blanton. Oh, there's a bit of a bobble going through from the former leader, the 44 of Atkin, but he got it together, and he's right now trying to squeeze the inside of the 16. He's not waiting around.
No, he is not. Puts those left sides down below the dotted white line off of turn 4, as he's been able to work his way now from 10th up to 3rd in the span of 4 green flag laps. Sets his sights now on the 14 of Cooper Johnson.
He has definitely found his stride. He's now trying to get to the 14, and trying is a bit of an understatement. He's right there going through 3 and 4. He definitely knows how to wheel his 44 machine around this track. He's got fresher tires as compared to the 2 leaders. I don't know if it was really that much of an issue for the 2 leaders, but certainly seems that the fresher the tire, the much better it is for these drivers. And to the inside now of Cooper Johnson goes Blaine Atkin, and it's almost like he's got so much more aerodynamics than these other drivers. He's now taken that 2nd place position back, now sets his sights on 1st place Seth Harrelson.
Gonna have to make up about 7/10 of a second to do so. Ryan Lutz has been following Blaine Atkin on his charge to the front. He now looks to the inside of Cooper Johnson for 3rd place, and what was a spirited battle that actually exchanged a little bit of paint last time by on the front straightaway. Michael Blanton finally has passed Anthony Graneri for 5th. Keep an eye on the 31 of Gerald Campbell as well. I don't think he's done just yet. Our pole sitter has worked his way up to 6th after getting the free pass under this yellow flag.
Yeah, he is going back the right direction. He fell back quite a bit, and so too did Atkin. So, like you said, making his way back up to the front of the field and doing so very quickly is that 31 machine. Graneri again finds himself going the wrong direction. He's now in the clutches of John Whitendorf in the 33. He does have the 85 of Goshen in between him. So,
oh, buddy, we had ourselves almost a wreck for the lead. Atkin got loose underneath Seth Harrelson.
And that could have been bad for both of these drivers. Certainly, Blaine Atkin is in a bit more of a precarious position in the point standings. He is the points leader in this race, and if everything goes well, he's on track to keep the points lead the way he's been driving. 1st place now back into the 44's hands, and we were wondering what kind of run he would get if he had to start outside the top 10. I think we just got an idea. In the span of under 10 laps, he's now gone from 10th to 1st. That's almost a position per lap he made up.
He picked him up and he put him down. It wasn't the easiest road to traverse, but certainly kind of adapting the Dale Earnhardt knowledge, saying of go where they ain't. That's exactly what Blaine Atkin did. Is now he's going to try and see if he can put a couple of drivers a lap down, Hank Steinmiller and Jackson McLaren, who restarted on the tail and lead lap under the last restart. Just a bit of an update here. We've got 13 drivers currently on the lead lap. Bruce Pearson 1 lap down. James Goshen 2 laps down. So 15 drivers still running. Bo Caro about 14 laps ago put his number 42 back in the garage area, along with Jay Counshell, Christopher Morris Jr., and Chuck Sweden. For those that have just joined us here this evening, Phoenix has played its part into potentially the championship at the end of the year. Jay Counshell was 5th in points, Christopher Morris Jr. 4th in the stands, and the both of them currently in the garage area will not reach the conclusion of this race. So Phoenix ready for a point shakeup heading into Dega.
Yeah, and like we said earlier in the program, Dega was the one that all these drivers were eyeing to be the wild card, and I think the wild card came early for some of these drivers, especially because I don't think we ever predicted that Morse and Houndshell in the same incident would have gone out. So a bit of a shake-up there as far as the points goes, and I don't know where that leaves them in the point standings at the end of this race. We'll have to wait until the end of the race because we have a lot of racing to go. Still 52 laps of racing to go here tonight. So far, it's been the Blaine Atkin show. He has gotten out front and never looked back. Only a couple times, only to find himself back in the front of the field. Seth Harrelson is doing well as well. He's running in second place at the moment. He's trying to keep back the charges of Ryan Lutz, who has not really been up in the top 3 so much this race. He's now finding himself in 3rd place. He is on a tear right now in the 36, and someone else who's on a tear is Michael Blanton in the 24. First time I think we've seen this 24 car in the top 5 all night long.
Yeah, great run there from Michael Blanton. We kind of saw him pop up into the top 5 late in last week's race at Nashville as well. And I mean, that car here tonight looks like it's been through the wars. He's got damage on the front, damage on the back, but still soldiering on. And Michael Blanton looking to see if maybe, just maybe, he can pick up only his 2nd top 5 on the season.
Cooper Johnson has fallen back into 5th place. He's now under fire from the advancing Gerald Campbell, who is trying to get back up into the top 5. Cooper Johnson has a bit of an interesting night. He restarted the leader the last time by, and ever since then has fallen all the way back down to 5th place. So trying to find his stride again. The Daytona winner is trying to find something in order to get back into the points battle. He's still up in the, I believe he's still up in the top 10 in points, but he is not putting on a performance that I think that he'd want to, but still a very consistent driver so far this season.
I want to give a bit of a pat on the back to John Whitendorf here this evening. Right now, looks like he is going to lose a couple more points to Blaine Atkin, with Atkin out in front. Whitendorf right now back in the 9th position, but when you consider how his evening started, first caution of the night, John Whitendorf involved in a wreck over in turn 3, sustained early damage. His car has never really been as competitive since, but got the lucky dog back on, I think it was the 2nd or 3rd caution, has been able to work his way back up inside of the top 10. Sometimes when you have early adversity like that, all you got to do is just staunch the bleeding. That's what he's been able to do here tonight. He's going to gain a couple of points off of Christopher Morris Jr. and Jay Counshell, kind of pad that cushion. He might possibly lose 2nd in the points to Gerald Campbell, but when you have a bad night like this, the main goal is just keep yourself within striking distance and get him next week.
Indeed so, and some drivers that we haven't talked about all night, and we got to give a little bit of a shout out. There's 3 drivers in particular that we haven't mentioned so far this evening. One of them is running in 10th place, quietly been running in 10th place. That's the 44 of Jose Medina, who's just been kind of just running his own race, not really getting in anyone's way. He hasn't really been in a whole lot of battles so far this race, but that 43 car has definitely been a consistent car. Still a top 10 run so far, and that car I don't think has a scratch on it.
Yeah, zeros across the board for wins, top 5s, and top 10s. Could put a 1 in the top 10 column here this evening. And yeah, you're right. Just running his own race, minding his own business, and preserving his equipment, looking to reap the rewards of that. Had a very solid night, has kept it on the lead lap. And one thing that I always say, if you run all the laps, you're going to get rewarded.
Indeed so. The driver right behind him is the 4 car. This is James Roth. Again, one of those drivers hasn't really been involved in a whole lot, kind of running his own race. In fact, the guy that's directly behind him is also another one of the drivers that has been kind of doing that as well. But Roth in that number 4 machine, just again, the same thing with Medina, running by himself, not really getting in anybody's way. A very clean race car, running in 11th. And then a little ways back, he's a lap down, but the 22 of Bruce Pearson has also found himself in a similar situation. The only car in this field that is not a Chevy, that is a Ford that he's running, so a little bit of a difference there. He has had a pretty consistent race as well. He's a lap down in 14th, but considering that how this race has gone for a few drivers, it's been a pretty good day for the 22 machine.
I want to just quickly go back there because you know me and I love statistics and talk about the 4 of James Roth. Right now, he is eyeing Jose Medina for that 10th position. Why? Well, he is the only driver in the first 7 races this season that has finished in the top 10 in every single race. Of course, had that top 5 run last week at Nashville, but looking to continue that streak to 8 straight top 10 finishes. He is 7th in the point standings. The top 6 in points have not even finished inside the top 10 every single race. So that's a true testament to the consistency of this 4 car this year.
Yeah, it is. We're riding on board with him. You can see just how cool and collected he is in that car. We've seen a lot of drivers kind of struggle with their race cars, really wrestling the wheel as they go in and out of the turns. But so far, not so for the Ford machine. He's just kind of running his own race, like we said. And I got to admit, that car, I believe he ran this scheme at Darlington. It's a very nice scheme that he's got in this car.
He did indeed, and he's run it ever since Darlington, the Crisco colors on that machine. Whoo! Almost had some contact there for 5th place between Gerald Campbell and Cooper Johnson. They keep that together, but if you look at your ticker, 42 laps to go. Yep, we're in the window now to be able to make it the rest of the way on fuel should these drivers decide to short pit. But I think if we look at the past history of when the caution flies as opposed to when drivers take the short pit strategy, I think you might want to stretch it as far as that fuel tank will allow you here.
Absolutely, and that's going to give you an advantage because your tires will be a lot fresher if you do it later as late as possible. We've seen how tires have been the deciding factor whether or not you can put your car wherever you want to, and for drivers such as Harrelson, Lutz, Blanton, and Campbell, who are running behind Atkin, they want as fresh a tires as they can so they can take it to the 44, who has seemed to, no matter how fresh his tires are, be able to put that car wherever he wants to. And we've got a battle right now between Blanton and Campbell going on. This is a pretty good battle going on between the two. I'm not Blanton, I'm sorry, Cooper Johnson and Campbell. This is a pretty good battle. In fact, Johnson goes to the inside, gets back into the top 5.
I think Gerald Campbell just said, "You're faster than me, go on by," because Campbell's been struggling with the handling of that car the last couple of laps, which allowed Cooper Johnson to get to his back bumper. The two almost made some more contact that last time off of turn 4, so very smart there for Gerald Campbell. Now, in terms of when these drivers will come to pit road, the farthest a driver has made it on a set of tires so far this evening was Christopher Morse Jr. That was back in the beginning stages of this race. He made it 50 laps. Let's remember, however, that a few of those laps were under pacing. There were 2 caution periods in between those 50 laps. When we saw drivers like Gerald Campbell, Hank Steinmiller, Ryan Lutz come to pit road, they went about 40 to 42 laps on their set of tires. I'm not necessarily certain if it was fuel or tires that really drew them to pit road. So we're looking right now with how many laps these drivers have run anywhere in the next maybe 11 to 15 laps, maybe maximum 153, 155 for these drivers to make their final pit stop of the day.
And that is crucial information for these drivers because they know that when that time comes, they need to have the best pit stop that they can possibly get if they want to have a good starting or a good finishing position in today's race. And it's especially worrisome for someone like Blaine Atkin, who we saw almost spin going on to pit road. So How cautious do you think this 44 machine is going to be on the transition into pit road?
Well, if we look right now, he's been able to build up a 2.5-second lead back to Ryan Lutz. I think when he came to pit road the last time, he had over 7 seconds back to the second place driver. So there's room to work with, no doubt about that. I definitely think you got to be careful coming onto pit road. Now, in terms of sliding the tires and nearly spinning it out, he saved it. And those tires that he wore down, those front tires, he was going to change them anyway. So as long as he was able to keep the car straight, I don't have as much of an issue with the fact that he slid the tires. The thing that would worry me is you don't want to carry so much speed down pit road that you're going too fast when you cross the commitment line and throw away this win on a speeding penalty.
That is a very crucial bit of information, and I don't know. I don't think he did, because we would have seen it if he had gone faster going on that last time by. He didn't have to serve a penalty, so obviously got it slowed down at least to the first timing line, so it evened out throughout the entirety of the pit window. So I don't think it was that big of an issue the last time by. Another thing that worries me is not so much the tires; it's if you do slide, you could bend it into the outside wall, which is something he almost did. He almost hit the barrels on the beginning of the pit wall, which would have undoubtedly damaged his car beyond any sort of winning percentage. So all these drivers really have to keep that in the back of their mind. It's only Atkin that we saw. I don't think anyone else did, but the way that Atkin is driving his car right now, he is on the ragged edge. We just saw him get a little bit out of shape going out of turn 2, almost got a bit of the outside retaining wall. If you can save your tires in any sense of the word, I don't think he's in that tire saving mode right now. He's definitely trying to put down as fast as last as possible, and it's working for him because he has opened out now 3.1 second lead back to Ryan Lutz. Now, something interesting, our top two are the only multi-time winners this season.
That's true.
There might be a little bit of one-upsmanship between these two drivers. Maybe Lutz wants to try and get back at Atkin.
Hey, no doubt about it. Ryan Lutz, of course, back-to-back victories. Blaine Atkin had a bit of a space in between his 2 wins on the season. And I mentioned the fuel window was open. We've got a couple of drivers that have pit. Anthony Guarneri was on pit road about 2 laps ago. Cooper Johnson now comes down to the attention of his crew. And I want to go back real quickly here, too, to just kind of build off something we were talking about. Gracious, Blaine Atkin. That car wicked loose through 1 and 2. But something we were talking about the execution getting onto pit road. Cautions that are thrown are admin thrown. The sim itself does not throw out the yellow flags in this race. So if you wreck that car coming onto pit road, there's no guarantee that a caution flag is going to come out to save your race.
Yeah, and that is big, especially if you are in a top 5 position. You would love to have a yellow come out to save you, but to your point, it might not, and that could be your race over. You would undoubtedly go at least 1 lap down, if not multiple laps down, and that is something that I think is going to be in the back of the mind of a lot of these drivers. This is a short lap relatively to other tracks we go to, so going a lap down is very easy at this mile track. So a lot of what we've talked about this race is coming to a close because we're coming down to 30 laps to go this time by. We have gotten the 30 laps to go now, so when we're down to crunch time, we're going to see these leaders on pit road at any point in time. It's going to be the money stop. We can't stress this enough. This is what these drivers are going to rely on to get a good finish. I think we just saw some smoke. There's a slow car, perhaps. Is that the 07? He's coming on. He's actually coming back on. He just
pit. Seth Harrelson just pit, and money stop time for Ryan Lutz, pitting from the 2nd position.
So far, flawless stop. He's spent about 10 seconds now on his box. Wow, a lightning fast stop, 11.1 for the 36 machine, and that could be the difference between who wins this race.
Sharp eyes, Anthony, there with that smoke. Seth Harrelson actually coming off pit road, looped it around in the middle of turns 1 and 2, nosed it into the outside wall, but kept it going. No caution was thrown.
Here comes the leader, Atkin, onto pit road. Oh, he looked like he was thinking about it. He was certainly loose, like he was trying to whoa up, but he, in fact, stays out again. So, thinking better of it, may not have been able to get down to where he needed to or even slow down enough time, but you can expect to see him on pit road at any point in time, as well as our new 2nd place driver, which is the 24 of Blanton. He's actually got Whitendorf right behind him. So, all of these leaders expected to come down pit road any time now.
As the question of just how far are you willing to stretch it. Right now, we've only got 7 drivers on the lead lap. If a caution came out, we'd only have 8 drivers on the lead lap with the addition of the lucky dog with less than 30 laps to go. So you got to wonder if maybe under this run, anybody went into fuel saving mode just a little bit. Like I said, you can't make it to conclusion, but if you could stay out an extra 2 or 3 laps than the rest of the race leaders and maybe trap everybody down a lap with a perfectly timed caution, that strategy could be something we could see here.
Oh, look at Lutz as he muscles his way around the leader, Blaine Atkin, to get one of his laps back. In fact, his lap back. So, back on the lead lap is Ryan Lutz. If a caution comes out, he doesn't have to worry about getting a lucky dog or a wave around. So, already one driver back there, and you can see the speed difference between Atkin and Lutz. Now, another thing that we haven't considered is staying out worth it when these drivers have come down pit road thus far. I know that you're going to be faster when you get fresher tires, and you're going to have much fresher tires at the end of the race, but that time that you've lost staying out, is it worth it?
I'm over here trying to weigh those pros and cons. These last couple of laps on fresh tires, Ryan Lutz has been gaining 2 seconds on Blaine Atkin. Remember, the interval between the two before Lutz came to pit road was just a tick under 3 seconds. So he's certainly picking up that interval. More than likely will cycle around as the race leader. But going back to what you were talking about, Blaine Atkin was staying out. He's going to have tires that will stay fresher longer as we get close to the end of this race. I don't necessarily know, though, if he's going to have enough time to be able to reel in Ryan Lutz. It's going to really be interesting to see what the interval is between these two when the 44 finally finishes his pit stop, which begins now.
And he did smoke them going on to pit road, locked all 4 of his wheels up, but he does make it onto pit road without sliding. He's trying to find his pit box. He almost missed it the last time, but he almost missed it. There it is, back into his stall. A much slower stop now for the 44 as he missed his stall, had to back into it. Now getting service. This is something he didn't need to have happen.
Now we've got a 3-way battle for the lead going on here as well, with drivers that still have to hit pit road. John Whitendorf, Gerald Campbell, Michael Blanton. So this race may not be over. These guys continue to run as close as they are. We may see another caution flag fly here.
Whitendorf, the interim leader so far. Campbell and Blanton now battle for what is going to be, I think, about 5th place once they cycle on through, or maybe 6th place. Here comes the 07, I think. Whoa, that's the 63, the 3-1. Blanton into the wall, and now there's a yellow going to fly shortly for that.
Has to be. The track is blocked up. No yellow yet. 24 gets it refired. There really was no oncoming traffic there, so the caution was not thrown. 24 got it going before the 43 of Jose Medina entered into the picture.
And that could have been a death sentence for some of these drivers that were going to have to make a pit stop, because those drivers behind were certainly going to overtake them by way of just staying out on the racetrack. But wow, we were predicting it, and there was 3 wide going in through the dog leg between the 63-24 and the 31. That was not going to work. And I want to hark back to something that we saw earlier in the race as Whitendorf makes his stop. But when we were on board earlier in the race, when we had that earlier crash through the dog leg where he just drove into him, you can't see a driver when they come off a pit road, especially if you're coming back up through turn 2 when you're going up onto the outside of the racetrack. It's really difficult to see a car coming back onto the racetrack. So I wonder if that's what happened just now between Blanton, Campbell, and the 63 of Steinmiller. I wonder if that's something that we need to consider for later in the race.
Well, I'm also thinking that what might have played a factor into that was the car that made the 3-wide move to the inside was on fresher tires. I think Campbell realized that, was trying to give him room. At the same time, Michael Blanton was to his outside trying to pinch him down as they were battling for position, and that's what led to that contact. But I'll tell you what, we talked about the fact that with that runoff not available here with the Legacy Phoenix, we've seen at least 3, maybe 4 incidents there on that crooked back straightaway.
Yeah, we have, and it has played a big impact on the outcome of this race. And so far tonight, it looks like it might continue to play a big impact. something that has played a big impact. We talked about him having to woe up, and then not only on the pit entry, but also missing his pit box. We wondered what would happen with Blaine Atkin versus Ryan Lutz. Well, we already do know Lutz has gotten around Atkin. He's actually got him cleared by 6.8 seconds. The gap is closing, but that's only because Lutz is in a battle right now in traffic. He's now trying to catch up to Michael Blanton, who's trying to get around for a 4th place position. He's already done that. And now Goshen. Whoa, there was contact between Roth and Goshen, and Roth had to woe up and get on the brakes a little bit too hard and locked him up, but no one spun around. We are continuing to go under green.
And right now, the gap back to Blaine Atkin from Ryan Lutz has now become about 6.2 seconds. And there are a couple of machines that Blaine Atkin may have to deal with here. Blanton and Roth both actually have to hit pit lane before this race is over. But I guarantee you, when Ryan Lutz was back in traffic as he pinches down Jason Houndshell on the right side to get around him, but I'll guarantee you, if he didn't have to have both wheels on, both hands on the wheel, making sure that thing stayed underneath him, you probably would have seen his right hand waving cars out of the way because he was boxed in and, as you said, losing a lot of time to Blaine Atkin when he was trapped in traffic.
We're looking right now at our leader, Gerald Campbell, the only one I believe that hasn't come down pit road out of our lead lap cars, and he's not going to come down this time either. So stretching it out is the driver of the 31. I don't know how well this is going to pay off for him. He's got about a 7-second gap back to 2nd place Ryan Lutz. This he cannot make it to the end of the race with the amount of fuel he's got left in his car. It's almost impossible, but maybe he's hoping for a quick caution. He might go into extreme fuel saving mode. He's got the distance to do it. Do we see him try to stay out all the way? Certainly has no indication coming down pit road thus far. He's going to work on now lap 50 of this stint.
No, he's going to only be able to make it about another 6 laps, if that, before he's going to have to come to pit road. What he's hoping right now is that a caution comes out before he has to pit. Yes, he's losing time. Oh, he might be out of fuel, actually, as he is really slow on the back straightaway, so that call definitely not going to pan out for him. What he was hoping for was a caution to come out so that way he would have about 15 to 17 lap fresher tires than everybody else if he had an extra set down pit lane, but it looks like this gamble just a little too far for him as he had to coast about half of this racetrack back to pit road.
A very eerily silent car as we're on board with him going on to pit road. He does not have power on pit road either. He's hoping that he can coast all the way down to his pit box to finish out this race. A tough break for Gerald Campbell. He started on pole. He's not going to go coast to coast tonight, unfortunately. However, we have a pretty interesting battle now for what is the lead of the race, as Blaine Atkin is within 3 seconds now, almost within 3 seconds of Ryan Lutz, and the gap continues to close. Does he have enough time to make it up to the 36 is the question.
And he only has 6 lap older tires than Blaine Atkin, but that has translated to Atkin closing up for the race lead 0.4 to a half second every single lap. Whoa, Campbell merging back on track in front of Lutz, and he's going to hit the 36. Ryan Lutz trying to save it. He does through 3 and 4, but that's going to hurt him even more in his attempt to keep Blaine Atkin in the rearview mirror.
That was a really bad merge that the 31 made. Well, actually, I don't think it was a bad merge. Again, to the point, you can't see a driver when they come off of pit road when you're coming up to the high side of turn 2. So that could have just been the fact that Ryan Lutz didn't see him. That is huge implications because now the gap is 1.8 seconds and Ryan Lutz has got a slightly damaged race car.
Gerald Campbell did everything correctly there. He kept it down to the inside coming off of pit road. Drivers do not like it when you swing from the low side to the high side to be able to get out of the way because it's so unpredictable. So that was definitely on Ryan Lutz. To your point, might not have seen the 31 coming off of pit lane, but certainly it was the 36 that should have moved high to get around Gerald Campbell. The gap now 1.6 seconds, and I gotta wonder, obviously he slid his tires, so that's going to wear them down even more, but there was some contact as well. A little bit of front-end damage on the 36, which is going to tighten up that race car, might hurt his ability to turn off the corner. We're going to have to see if that plays a factor here as, I think that might have fired Ryan Lutz up. He actually opened up a 10th through 3 and 4 on Blaine Atkin that last time.
I think he's realized it's go time. We went back and took a quick look at what happened. We missed it on the live feed, but you saw the replay. It was a closing rate. It was just too much for Ryan Lutz to get on the brakes. Now he is trying to charge up, although that little bit of a gap he made up, he's lost again. It's now 1.4 seconds back to Blaine Atkin. Atkin is trying his hardest to get up there. 10 laps to go, now coming to 9 laps to go, and now with the lap cars a pick, that's the 0-0 of Houndshell now that's between him and Atkin. So can he do it? With 9 laps to go, he's right there. The gap is closing, and what's worse, Ryan Lutz, more wear on the tires and slight aero damage now on that 36 machine on the front end. He is now hoping that the laps tick down in enough time for him to hold on to this lead, although Atkin is hoping that he can get up to the front. He is wheeling this 44 car along, and the 0-0 is not making it easy for Ryan Lutz.
I think Lutz is just going to let him on by. That 0-0 does have fresher tires by about 15 laps. And going back to your question about can Blaine Atkin run down Ryan Lutz, if we go based off of the lap times and the number of laps left, right now the answer is no. That 4 to 5 tenths of a second that Blaine Atkin was gaining before, his tires have worn down. All he gains now is about a tenth every lap. Right now, projected, he would need about 10 laps to be on the back bumper of the 36 coming to the white. He's only got 7 laps to work with now.
You can see off in the distance, there's the black 44 machine. He's sailing into turn number 1. He's riding way up the track. He's losing time out of corner exit, but Ryan Lutz continuing to hold his ground. The time now still back to about a second gap between the two of them. Like you said, I don't know if he certainly can't do it the way he's running, but he is trying to wheel his 44 around, but there is trouble. There is the 4 car of Roth and the 0-0 still that they have to deal with, that being Lutz that has to deal with in front. That might play a huge factor, and it's going to as they get slowed up going through turn 1. Whoa! Atkin almost loses it as we're on board with them.
And people might be wondering, well, Blaine Atkin, he comes in the points leader. A lot of drivers in the top 5 in points have struggled today. Would he just kind of hang back and take a second place? We got the answer last week. When he ended up finishing well at Nashville, he said, I'm not here for points. I'm here for wins. I'll concentrate on the points when it gets closer to the championship. So he's going to give it everything he's got here. And you mentioned it, Anthony. These two, Lutz and Atkin, the only multi-time winners this season, looking to see who's going to be the first one to put a 3 in the win column and 4.5 laps to decide at Phoenix.
I think we're seeing why these two drivers have gotten multiple wins. They are wheeling around this track better than anyone else has done so far tonight. And right now, Atkin has actually gotten a bit held up by the 0-0 of Houndshell. Has gotten a bit of a roadblock coming out of turn 2 that's going to slow him up, although the gap is a little bit closer than it was the last few laps ago. Ryan Lutz, oh, we got a caution! That's going to have huge implications, and it's going to be the 85 of Goshen spinning around to bring out the yellow.
And this will put us into 1 overtime green-white checkered. I do believe, I don't think we'll get back green flag racing under regulations. So, do these drivers have an extra set of tires waiting for them? And if so, do they come down here and put them on for a shootout?
That could be a huge possibility. We're looking at what happened to Goshen. I think he just rode up on the racetrack and then got contact from Blanton and sent him back up the racetrack into the outside wall. That was enough for a yellow flag, and that's going to set us up with what you said. I don't think it's going to be regulation either. So the question is, will they pit? Do you risk the track position? If you do have tires, is it worth it? Because you only got 27 laps in the case of Lutz. You've got 21 laps in the case of Atkin. Weidendorf's got the freshest tires out of both of these drivers. He's got 18 laps on his tires, and that's good news for him, Harrelson, and Cooper Johnson, because they were so far back, there's no way they're going to make a challenge for the lead of the race. If these two, Atkin, Lutz, get together, this could be huge for Weidendorf.
And I would not put that possibility outside of the realm, no doubt about it. Ryan Lutz and Blaine Atkin, no strangers to using their front bumpers or to blocking for the win. And with this caution coming out, there were only 6 drivers on the lead lap when that yellow flag came out. Lutz, Atkin, Weidendorf, Harrelson, Johnson, and Guarneri. Jason Houndshell you just saw go around. He is the lucky dog, so looks like we're going to only have 7 drivers finish on the lead lap. And we've gotten our answer, Anthony. Last time by, pits were open. none of our lead lap cars came to pit road. So either they didn't have an extra set waiting for them on pit road, or they are of the mentality, we've got what we've got.
And that is going to set us up for one heck of a finish here tonight. We are on lap 174 of regulation. Well, the next time by, we will be on our final lap of regulation. But to your point, we will have one attempt at a green-white checkered finish between all of these drivers. We're on board with Ryan Lutz looking back at Blaine Atkin. So far tonight, Ryan Lutz has been almost perfect. He was as low as 17th at one point in this race, but now finds himself leading the race all these laps later. It's been a long race for these drivers. We took the green flag back at 9 p.m. Eastern thereabouts. We're now almost 11 p.m. We're going to make that 10:45 Eastern. And it is coming down to crunch time for these drivers. And as it always does, these races run long and these drivers get tired at the end of the race. You can tell that they are fatigued when we are at the end of these races. Seth, we know that these drivers might use the bumper. And something else that's happened that has happened very recently, if you'll notice, the clouds have also come in. How does that affect the track conditions?
Not at all. Not at all. It hasn't been enough cloud cover to be able to cool this track down whatsoever, and these tires wouldn't feel that extra grip even if it was there. Right now, Ryan Lutz, 29-lap-old tires, 23-lap-old tires for Blaine Atkin. These tires still have a lot of heat built up in them, so right now, this restart, it's going to come down to who's the best wheelman, because these cars are going to be slipping and sliding for these final 2 laps. It's going to be who can be able to manage their car the best through the corners, be able to maintain that speed off corner exit and onto the straightaway. And right now, we're going to find out who's going to be the first 3-time winner, if at all, because to your point, 3rd on back to 7th, they've still got a shot for this victory as well because they're on the lead lap.
Pace car makes the hard left turn on the pit road. We're going for 2 more laps. Ryan Lutz, Blaine Atkin will get us back underway, and Lutz with a great restart. He has opened up about a 2-car length gap into turn 1. However, Lutz is right there. He's trying to catch up, and he's right within eye shot of the 36, getting a better run coming out of turn 2 down the back straightaway.
Blaine Atkin tried that outside line that he's used on restarts all race long, but he didn't have the fresh tires to take. He also brushed the wall off turn 2, but he's within striking distance. Car length and a half between the top 2. Looks like the white flag will wave as Lutz gets loose off of 4.
Lutz loose, though. They're right next to each other. Where does Atkin go? They're crashing down the front straightaway. They're both into each other. Atkin crashing on the front straightaway. Lutz is going to lose the position to John Weitendorf as they continue to crash on the front straightaway.
Did you just say John Weitendorf, who was a lap down early on this race, is leading this event? I cannot believe what just happened there. Weitendorf, second in the points, gets dive bombed by Lutz. It ain't over yet.
Coming down to the line out of turn 3 or turn 4 for the final time. Drag race down the front straightaway. Who gets here first? It's Ryan Lutz who pulls out the win.
Oh my goodness, waiting for the interval. 2/100ths of a second. Lutz is going to edge Weitendorf for win number 3 on the season.
And he did it in spectacular fashion. What was it that we said early on in the race? Somebody might use the side of their car to muscle their way around one of these other drivers to take the win, and we certainly saw it here in the final lap. Ryan Lutz, by all means, was sideways coming out of turn 4, and somehow, some way, wins the drive. Oh, we've got tempers.
Tempers flaring. Temperature's not the only thing hot here in Phoenix.
Oh my goodness. We have, well, isn't it Phoenix that's synonymous with having some heated temperatures?
Atkin's coming back. He's coming back. The 44's coming back.
This is not over yet between these two.
Oh boy. And Ryan Lutz, who was a wrecked machine over in turn 1 on that final lap, barely by a bumper, edged out John Weitendorf. It's a good thing the front bumper stayed on that 36. Otherwise, if he didn't have that front bumper, Weitendorf might have been able to edge him.
The thing is, I don't know what Atkin's angry about. Lutz was the leader coming down to receive the white flag, and he was just hugging the bottom of the racetrack. I think he might have been upset that he may have gotten the position or at least some ground on the inside line and then came down to block into the inside wall, but still, He had to do what he had to do. Atkin was coming up. There was nothing that he could have done to avoid that.
Yeah, I think it was the block. I think it was the block that Blaine Atkin did not like. Lutz got loose off of turn 4. Atkin got a heck of a run on him, but the thing of it is, when Blaine Atkin pulled up to the back bumper of the 36, he hit him square. He had another 2.5 car lengths to go to the inside on Ryan Lutz. So, again, I'm with you. I don't really know why the 44 is upset, because Ryan Lutz didn't block him all the way down to the pit wall. There was still plenty of space for the 44 to be able to make a move if he so chose.
He was burning it down, though. You can tell Lutz is happy about this one. He had to earn it tonight. I am almost speechless. That was incredible. That was, so far, if we wanted a best finish of the year award, that's a good contender for this series anyway.
I think that jumped up to the top. It's close with the sixth to win that Cooper Johnson pulled off at Daytona.
Indeed, that was one of the better ones this season. This one had drama through and through. We're actually going to go take a look at this final lap really quickly. This was coming down. This was the block that we were talking about to the inside, and there was the contact. They made a big bit of contact going down the front straightaway, and there goes Whitendorf around, and that set up the battle for the end of the race. But man, what a finish! That you couldn't have scripted that.
No, you certainly couldn't have. And I'll tell you what, I'm perfectly honest. I thought that John Whitendorf, even through the 3 and 4 battle with Ryan Lutz, I thought he was going to get the run off the corner. I don't know how the 36 got back to the throttle as quickly as he did to be able to win that exchange to the start-finish line, because my money would have been on the 33 all the way. And a tough break there for a couple of drivers, Hank Steinmiller, Michael Blanton. They actually got involved in that wreck over in turn 1 when the 44 spun back up into the racing surface. They both were a lap down, and I think they were going to finish in 9th and 10th. They subsequently finished in 11th and 12th. So tough break for both of those drivers getting caught up in that last lap incident as well.
Man, well, tonight has been full of drama through and through, and oh, goodness gracious, we have implications, points implications, mostly, and this is going to carry over the battle between Atkin and Lutz. Stay tuned. That's going to be the best battle this season so far. The point standings, it's also there. Atkin probably going to remain the points leader into next week at Talladega, but Talladega might play host to one of the closest battles we're going to see this season, and it could end up being just what these drivers need to have for some major points and to get revenge mostly out of the outcome of this race. Oh my goodness, I am still speechless after that finish. Man, I can barely get it out. But we have some people that might be able to weigh in on the finish of this race. We're looking through here to see if we've gotten anybody ready to line up for a chat. I see our winner from this race. It looks like he's the only one out of the top 3 that is in our server right now. So we're going to go ahead and get our winner, Ryan Lutz, in.
I think we got our 3rd place finisher as well, Cooper Johnson.
Oh, we do. Oh, Cooper Johnson finished 3rd. Okay, we'll get him in first. Hey, Cooper, it's Anthony and Seth in the Flatout Racing Network booth. You got us.
Oh, yeah, I sure got you guys.
That was one wild finish that we just saw, and you were caught up a little bit in the mix of it. What could you see from your point of view, and how was your race all night long?
Well, my race from start to finish, to start the thing off, I was just mostly saving tires. I knew that tires was going to be the biggest factor in this entire thing. Whoever was going to save their tires the best was going to be good at the end. But that ending, I almost thought I had like that Daytona moment again where the seas were going to part for me, because I thought that Ryan was going to really put John on the wall hard, and maybe they'd wreck themselves on the wall and keep themselves there, and then me and Seth would go across the line 1-2. But all in all, I mean, this was a fun race. I mean, I had my points where I was up front, and I kind of got lucky really early on when I stayed out, and I thought we were going to have a couple more laps under caution, so I was going to get a chance to lead a lap and then come down and get some tires and be in the back. But we had some really quick yellows tonight, and I got caught out, and I only had like 10 laps of fuel left on that first pit stop, and then those guys, they wrecked like 2 laps later, which really saved me. And I don't think I would have had a chance to be in the top 3 tonight if that didn't happen. So But all in all, it was a really fun race. I know these cars were like super tight and they were really hard to drive, and it was all about saving tires, but I had fun.
We saw, obviously, in the early portions of this race, you tried that little bit of strategy of staying out on that early caution. I mean, was there a number out there that you can give us of where fresh tires really took over against old tires, where you really could see the difference? Or was there an opportunity, let's say if you only had 5 or 6 lap older tires, that you could still hold off those fresher tires behind you?
I mean, if you had a couple laps in, you could still be decent. I think the fall off really hit hard around 10, 15 laps. It was not very long. I mean, you could be out there for a couple laps and it would really help you. But once you got later in those runs, it kind of really evened itself out. So, like that last pit stop, me and Anthony came down really a lot sooner than a lot of other guys. And I was hoping that those fresh tires would really chomp into that lead that Blaine had. And it just really didn't go into it as much as I thought. I know some guys took 2 tires, but I mean, once you got past that 10, 15 lap mark, your tires just really fell off, and it was all about just trying to save it as much as you could.
The track conditions were very slippery tonight, and seeing these drivers on this track with the older cars certainly was a show. As far as your race tonight, what was one of the highlights you can say that really set your race up to finish in third place? I know that pit strategy might have been one of the things, but is there a moment tonight that you could pick from that might have been the defining moment of how your race turned out to be?
That last caution. I mean, I wouldn't have had a chance. I was kind of slowly catching up to Seth there at the end of that run, but there were guys in front of me, like I would never have caught Blaine. I would have never caught Lutz. Those guys were destined to be a top 3, top 5, and I was kind of hanging around in that 5th spot, hoping to get 4th, and I was slowly catching Seth, but I think it was that last caution. That last caution really helped me a lot, and I'm so glad that last caution came out because it was a ton of fun. That finish was a ton of fun.
It certainly was fun up here in the booth to watch, and as far as you can tell from you, it was fun for the drivers as well. I have to weigh in on a couple of the other drivers because they might have very different opinions on that finish, but before we let you go, we're going to open the floor to you for some sponsors and some shout-outs.
Well, I want to obviously thank you guys. You guys put on a great broadcast every single week. It's a ton of fun to talk to you guys. I want to make this more of a regular thing. Like I said last time I was up here, I want to talk to you guys more often, so hopefully I keep these top 3s up. But I obviously want to shout out sponsor on the hood, Juicebox Podcast. Go listen to those guys. They're a ton of fun to listen to. A bunch of great guys. Thank to Hank. Thank to Ryan. Congrats to Ryan on the W tonight. Really helps out the CRM team. And it was a ton of fun tonight. Thanks to everybody who was watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the broadcast.
Congratulations to Cooper Johnson for his 3rd place finish, a podium spot tonight. Hope that we do see this a bit more regular for Cooper Johnson, and we will wish you luck heading into Talladega next week. Maybe you can have a repeat of what happened at Daytona.
Yes, sir.
Have a good rest of your night. And that is going to be our 3rd place finisher. Our 2nd place finisher not in the booth or anywhere.
He was here,
ready.
then he wasn't, then he was, then he wasn't. So
we'll instead get our race winner, and I'm sure that he's got a lot to tell us about what happened tonight as a result of that last caution. We'll get our winner, Ryan Lutz. Hey, Ryan, it's Anthony and Seth in the Flatout Racing Network booth. You got us.
Yes, sir.
That finish could have been a nominee for best finish of the year so far in the Vintage Series. That last caution really did set you up for a fantastic run to the end of the race. And by the way, congratulations on your win tonight. It certainly did not come easy. What was it like from your point of view that last couple laps?
It was wild for sure. You know, I was really upset that the caution came out. I thought we outsmarted them, and we definitely didn't have the car today. Honestly, I was probably a 10th place car. I didn't think I was any good. I hit the fence by myself twice, running to the back, hit everything but the lottery back there, it seemed like. And once I got up to 3rd or whatever it was, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put 2 tires on in one can. I've won a bunch of races that way, and hopefully it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I don't know, that last restart, I don't really know what Blaine was thinking there. I mean, I got to make the corner somehow. He didn't even try to race us. He just tried to wreck us. And I figured that was his only way by us. I think he was he was a little upset that I outsmarted him, it seemed like. But I mean, someone's got to do it, and luckily we were in the right spot. And then, we were able to save it off a 2 there, and really have a shot to the bottom there under John and drag Lutz racing to the line.
We saw a little bit of extracurricular activity there after the race as you were doing your burnout. I want to go back there to that run just before the last caution came out. You undercut Blaine by 6 laps, so he had 6 lap fresher tires than you did. We saw that at the beginning stages, he was cutting down anywhere from 4/10 to half a second on you. Then it kind of evened out to maybe about a 10th gained on you. But at the same time, you're dealing with traffic of drivers that were either a lap down or the tail end of the lead lap, losing time that way. How much were you just concentrating out the windshield running your laps, and how much were you looking at between you and that 44?
I don't think I looked at the mirror one time, to be honest with you. I just try to hit my marks every lap, just try to be by the lappers smooth. And me and Gerald got into it. I thought he'd go to the wall. I didn't know he would stay down there. And by the time the closing rate was so fast, by the time I realized he was staying there, I couldn't lift, and I felt bad and almost cost us the race there. But I mean, it's so hard when you get put in that spot. I just figured I had relative a couple times looking at him, and I saw he was coming to us, and then I was like, man, I just hope he burns up. I hope he burns up. It seemed like he was a little more burnt up than we were, and we were a little bit better. I found my shifting game there halfway through that run, and I don't think he was shifting, and we definitely found something with shifting, and that's what worked to our advantage.
So going back a few cautions ago, you kind of got into an off-pit sequence with the rest of the field, and that kind of set up for an interesting way that we looked at the top 10 going forward. Was that necessarily part of the strategy, or was that something that you kind of got forced into, being as the way the cautions fell? It was kind of, some of them were at the end of some green flag runs. So was it really a matter of, was it strategy, or was it kind of out of necessity that you had to make some of those calls?
No, I have a good team owner, Hank Steinmiller, and he brought the idea up, and I was like, hey man, if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it. We'll do it right here. And I figured it would bite us. I didn't think it would help us, but when Blaine had that pit road incident happen, or when he waited to pit or whatever happened there, I came in and put tires on, and it was me and him, and we drove all the way to first and second. And I was right where I wanted to be there, and I knew I won a lot of races on one can and two and right sides of these vintage cars. It seems like the left sides don't wear as much, and it seems like it turns a little bit better when you put rights on. And it was all part of the strategy. Hank is always hooks me up with these race calls, and he was going to put 4 on that last stop, and I was like, no, dude, I won a bunch of races putting right sides on here. I know what we need to do to win the race, and luckily we did, and I hope it all paid off.
I want to congratulate you on becoming the first 3-time winner this season on the year, only 8 races in, and you started the season late, so that's quite an accomplishment, not making all the starts so far. A contender for the points lead is kind of what we're eyeing you to see later in the season, once we get into the later half of the season. So very possible we could be seeing you in a battle for the points lead between Atkin and some of the others running up in the top 10 in points, especially because we've had some points, or some leaders in the points have some problems tonight. But again, congratulations on your win tonight. It was a hard-fought one. Before we let you go, though, we want to get you some sponsors and some shout-outs.
Yeah, just thanks to you, Seth, everyone at Flatout. You guys do an awesome job. Anthony does an awesome job. Everyone at Country Road Motorsports with Hank Steinmiller and Cooper Johnson, they're always helping me out. Hank's a great teammate to have. He calls some good races. Chris Delbeck Racing, Ryan Lutz Designs, Bad Flip Podcast, Amy Leininger. My girlfriend picked the colors out tonight, so it was a good race for us. She's always watching, so it's always cool. Just Chris Morris, everyone that puts this deal on, we'll go fight the fight next week.
Well, you might have a pretty big fight next week because you have made an enemy in Blaine Atkin, as we saw. But we look forward to seeing the show that we get out of the season. And again, congratulations on your win tonight. You'll have a good time enjoying it.
Thanks. Nothing to worry about.
And that is our winner, Ryan Lutz. Some words being flown tonight at Blaine Atkin. Atkin, I went back and looked at it. Atkin did try to run over Lutz, but we are going to have some spicy storylines going into Talladega, Seth.
Yeah, and here's the thing, too. I mean, as I said, Blaine Atkin has told us time and time again, he's not worried about points. He just wants to win the race. Ryan Lutz, you mentioned he came into this season late, so he's out there just trying to win. And over there in turn one here at Phoenix with very limited grip is one of the toughest turns to go into and get the car to stop on a dime. I mean, the both of them were nose to tail going into turn one. They were battling for the win on the final lap. Honestly, not surprised of what we saw there, not surprised of the result. I understand there's some hurt feelings, but this is just typical Phoenix. You just got to chalk it up to that and move on if you're the 44. And focus as well. I know he's not focused on points, but you got to focus on points because finishing in the 6th position here tonight as he did, he's going to lose some points to John Whitendorf, who was able to get up there and snag 2nd place. So Whitendorf will close in that points gap. And, you know, the end result, the end goal for all these drivers is to hoist that championship trophy at the end of the season. And it is finishes at this portion of the season, even back in the first race at Daytona, that could be the determining factor whether you're going to be the champion or the runner-up.
It's a long road to Atlanta ahead, that's for sure. So we have quite a bit of racing to go throughout this season and quite a bit more wild card races, if you will, going through this season. And the points battle is going to heat up like never before. We have had some issues tonight with some of the top running drivers in the point standings, such as Christopher Morse Jr. and Jake Hounshell, who found themselves an early exit in tonight's race, finishing 115 and 116 laps down, respectively. So that being said, the points battle going into Talladega, it's kind of going to be a regather race for Jake Hounshell and Christopher Morse Jr., knowing that they come out of this race with some bad luck. They're going to have to figure out a way to tame the roulette wheel of Talladega next week.
Yes, definitely going to have to kind of stop the loss of momentum for both of them. Of course, we already documented that not only with Christopher Morse Jr. finishing down the finishing results here tonight, but also didn't have the best of runs last week at Nashville. So certainly on a bit of a downward spiral is the defending champion. He's got to pick himself up by the bootstraps, get back into the consistent mode that we remember him being on back in season 1 to get himself back in this championship picture. But thing that puts a smile on my face, the streak is alive and well. James Roth did snag a top 10, finishing 9th, so he's a perfect 8 for 8 here this season and finishing up inside the top 10 so far.
Indeed, he is, and that's some consistency for you. Might not win him a championship, but he can say that he's got consistent top 10s going through this season, especially after Daytona. That could have been the best chance for him to not get a top 10, but he ended up getting one there as well. As far as the season goes, next week we are in Talladega. We've mentioned it throughout the night. We will be at Talladega next week for the Alabama 200. That will be at 9 p.m. Eastern here on the Flatout Racing Network. And then after that, we got Charlotte, Sonoma, and Eldora. Those are our races coming up on the docket, and that is going to throw some wrenches into some of these guys' plans because Talladega, big roulette wheel. Charlotte, a little bit more consistent. It kind of runs like Atlanta. You might be able to have a setup that you can bring from that track into Charlotte, but Sonoma, Eldora, completely different stories.
And just a little nugget for fans to kind of take from this weekend to next week at Talladega. Tonight's runner-up, John Whitendorf, heads into Talladega, the defending winner of that race. Can he go 2 for 2 at the high banks of the Superspeedway?
We'll have to tune in next week to find out. Our top 5 tonight was Ryan Lutz, John Whitendorf, Cooper Johnson, Seth Harrelson gets a 4th place finish tonight, and Anthony Granieri rounds out the top 5 of tonight. We are done here tonight, and I am Anthony McCurry. Alongside of me was Seth Cole. Seth, I want to thank you for joining me in the booth tonight.
Hey, no problem. I'll tell you what great precursor race is heading into Talladega that is unpredictable in and of itself. Can't wait till we get there.
And we will see you next week when we head to the high banks of Talladega for the Alabama 200 here on Flatout Racing Network. But if you want some more racing this week, we've got plenty of racing for you. Tomorrow night, we've got the Dark Horse IndyCar Series running on Wednesday night, and then we have a couple of other races happening on tomorrow night as well, and Thursday night. So if you want some racing, stay tuned to Flatout Racing Network for all your racing needs. Again, Sunday, we have got the Clutch Drop Championship, which coming off the heels of Martinsville, they could be in a pretty big battle for the points lead over there at Clutch Drop. So you don't want to miss that when they take on their next race on Sunday night. But I'm Anthony Perea.
Just real quick, too. Thursday night, we got a championship deciding as well in the RTG Talladega Challenge.
Indeed so. The final race of their season, if I'm not mistaken.
It is indeed.
So you want to tune in then to see the outcome of the Tally Challenge, which has been a fantastic season so far. If you missed it, well, you've got a championship race you can watch, and it is down to the wire. So plenty of racing here on the Flatout Racing Network for all your racing needs. Again, I'm Anthony McCurry alongside of Seth Cole. We'll see you next week when we take on Talladega in the G-Force Vintage 87 Series. Have a good rest of your night.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.